from this movie. We are going to combine efforts and get a new top 50 horror list. We'll bring back the murder mystery. Jamie didn't commit suicide. She was murdered.
We're gonna solve this son of a bitch.
And scary stories to tell in the dark.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hashtag Dork. My name is Rich Keefe, joined as always by Davey Eyeballs. He is Racula Von Dracula. He is promo code Ron Von D. All hail the king of ginger ale. It's Ryan Davey. Davey, how are you?
A very spooky evening this evening, Richard.
Oh, it is.
I'm
very
excited.
Oh, yeah. I'm very excited as well because it is a exciting roundtable edition of Hashtag Dork. So joining us as well is Mac from the Mac and Goo podcast. Mac, how are you?
I'm doing great. I decided to wear the spookiest item of clothing I own at the moment, and that is a Patriots jersey.
Nice.
Number
Looks
69.
like number 69 from
Yes,
here.
real topical.
Awesome. Good stuff. Nice.
Is that a Logan Mankins jersey? Did he wear 69?
No.
It is
70.
technically Shaq Mason's
Jack
number.
Mason.
Nice.
His just says nice.
This one's going to play out forever. This is my
That
forever
is timeless.
jersey.
That is timeless. Also joining us from the Mac and Goo program, it is Goo. Goo, how are you?
I'm not dressed as well as Mac is, apparently.
No, I didn't know there was a theme tonight, but there is. And last but certainly not least, it's Jason Rossi from the Pop Culture Pile Driver podcast. Rossi, welcome back.
Oh, it's good to be here, and I thought I'd wear a cap because you guys always wear caps. So I thought that
Yeah,
was
we like to wear
a
caps.
theme.
I'm bald, so that's why I wear a hat.
I didn't get
Let's
the
be honest
memo
with
on the
yourself.
sex
Yeah.
jerseys or on the hats. No one told me anything.
No, nothing. You just showed up as is. That's just kind of what the deal is. So, because we have a lot to get to, we are going to skip all the bells and whistles to This Week in Hashtag Dork, the Davey Video Game Minute, This Week in Rossi Horrible Take, which was a doozy, which we will hit on next week. It was. I don't want to derail the whole podcast, so we're not going to do it now, but it is an all-timer. And I'm keeping track, by the way. I have a list of the worst takes from 2020, and that one fucking jumped to the top, but I'm not going to do it right now. I'm not doing it right now because it's going to take away from everything. Also, no pick of the podcast. We can all plug each other later on, but
I'm already excited for next week's podcast. We just get to that one.
next week's going to be great. TBD on the subject.
TBD on the subject, but
Here's
yeah.
the deal, though. We got together, us five. We are the horror fans within the Hashtag Dork Gooniverse. Each one of us put together a list of 50 horror movies, our favorite 50, and we ranked them. And we trusted Rossi to come up with the combined list. And I'll tell you what, he did a hell of a job.
Knocked it out of the park, Ross. Good job.
Absolutely smoked it. Put it in a Microsoft Excel. Ever hear of it? He put it into a little folder there. And we have the whole list, 50 through 1. We've been releasing them on the Twitter account at Dork Podcast. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to count from 50 down to 1. Maybe at the end, we'll throw in a few that didn't make it onto this list that we happen to really like. And so feel free to stop at any point. If there's one you'd like to discuss at length, we can. If there's others that you just like to sort of nod your head and say, that certainly made the list, and we'll move on to the next thing, that's fine as well. I just smacked my mic
kick
rod.
drum?
I thought that was a sound effect. I thought that was
a
like, we're
ghost.
going to pause.
Gary, come with the kick drum. Gary, come. All right. Number 50 on the list is and I love, by the way, Rossi, great job. The list I'm looking at, it says exactly how many points each person gave the movie. So for some of the people on Twitter that blamed us for like a certain movie being too high or too low, we know exactly who to either give credit to or who to blame. The movie coming in at number 50 only was ranked by Jason Rossi and Goo, and it was much higher on Rossi's list. At number 50, the original, The Omen. The Omen. Rossi, why do you like The Omen so much?
The story itself. You gave birth to some sort of like demon child from a jackal. Like, this movie's badass. This movie's very underrated as well when you look back as well. Like, there's some scary ass shit that goes on throughout this entire film that now having a child scares the crap out of me all the time. I think about it constantly.
Kids are scary. I'll give you that.
Terrifying.
Kids are scary. Damien, you think it holds up? Did you watch it recently?
Yeah, I've watched almost, I'd say probably 60% of these movies, and I can make a little comment here and there. We rewatched this one, more laughs than scares. Unfortunately, a lot of these movies don't age very well. Like the editing, like the way that they try to do jump scares just aren't as scary. The only terrifying part, if you've seen this movie, is the babysitter goes up at Damien's, I want to say like 3rd or 4th birthday, and he talks to her. Next thing you know, bitch is hanging from the side of the house, just jumps out a window, hanging. Horrifying visual, horrifying scene. Aside from this, movie doesn't really age all that well. Not worth a ton of time. Definitely don't see the remake.
Another issue this movie has is that we've always talked about this, is that movies didn't know how to pace themselves until like 1994. So this movie definitely has that issue where it's trying to stretch a 50-minute story into 90 minutes. Yeah. And it's good. It's a classic. It's one of the paranormal classics. It deserved to be on the list, but really no higher than 50 and a mention pretty much.
Yeah, I think it was a good start to our list anyway. It is certainly a classic. And it's funny because our list kind of went through waves where sort of some old movies, then there was like a run on brand new movies, and then it's kind of gone back to the classics as we get into the top 10. Coming in at number 4. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was going to say, and thinking about it, we all talked about the list prior to us doing this podcast. And I think every one of us to a man was like, I'm cool with that. Like there was no like fighting about. We're like, this is if The Omen is the worst movie on this list, that's totally fine with everybody.
Great, great baseline. Yeah. And again, the reason why we did this, I've mentioned this only probably 25 times so far, is 3 years ago, Davey, me, and Uncle Buck did a list, same idea, top 50, and we trusted Uncle Buck to do the scoring. And what he did was he weighted it way differently, where he took the movies that all three of us had on our list and made those the top either 18 or 20. I forget how many overlap we had. Mm-hmm. And then kind of went on points. And it just really skewed it because there were movies that we all had like in the 40s, but like I didn't really love. Yeah, and then there'd be like a movie that me and Davey loved. Yeah.
You guys had Hellraiser
was like
was way too high
or something.
But there's a movie, and we'll get into it more towards the top 10 that Mac forgot about. But Mac would have had in his top 10 if he had remembered.
I think I would have had it 12th or 13th. But
whatever it was.
But doing it this way didn't hurt that movie.
It only moved down 3 as opposed to moving down 40, which is what Buck's system would have had.
Well, what Buck should have did is all the movies you guys didn't list in your top 50, just give it a 51 next to all the other ones. It would have made the math way easier.
Yeah, you could have done that, I guess. All right, coming in at number 49 is a movie that only Davey ranked. He ranked it really high. I love the movie, but I have such a hard time with like horror and horror comedy. That's where I trip up. And it's Army of Darkness at 49.
Is it horror comedy or comedy horror?
Here's where this movie gets into trouble. And there was another honorable mention that we talked about before, like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which is clearly
also good.
Clearly a comedy movie.
Yeah.
There's another movie that's higher on the list, what I think is clearly a comedy movie. But again, this is the thing that you run into. And for me, it has horror elements to it. But I would argue, I just love the movie so much, and it falls into the Evil Dead universe, which by that standard kind of makes it a horror movie more. Mm-hmm. But it's not anything like the first two Evil Deads, and it's more like a fantasy movie. But since it's in that universe, and since I love this movie so much, that's why I think I put it like 12. It was out of my top 10.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ, this movie is so good.
It's great.
It's one of the greatest B movies I've ever seen. It's intentional. It's campy. The one-liners are incredible. Bruce Campbell's the shit. I can't. This is one of the movies I can recite by rote. And I love this. I watch it once a month. I love this movie. I have the DVD right there. It's one of the only DVDs I still own.
You introduced this movie to me when we were in high school. I remember watching it for the first time, and it was great. And it's funny because looking at the list, there's a lot of movies that I'm happy that are on it that I didn't vote for. And you'll notice as we get into it, if it's on the thriller line, I immediately say horror. And if it's on the comedy line, I'm like, nope. And like that's just my hang up on it. But I'm glad some of the comedy ones did make it, including Army of Darkness, which is great. And it is tricky because it is, like you said, it's part of the Evil Dead trilogy. And so you would think it would be, but I think it goes off on a little bit of a different path.
There are the Deadites. There are zombies. There are
I tried my best at weighing those things. So after like the first 15 or 20 on my list at the top, I couldn't pretend I was legitimately scared of them still. So then when I kind of removed that, I was like, okay, now I can kind of mix in the comedies here. So I think I had Shaun of the Dead super high. And then after that, I had a bunch like in that 30 to 40 range.
Yeah, because this is also whatever you think is the best or the top horror movies and not necessarily the scariest movies. I think that'd be a different list.
Right. Right.
You know, movies that give you like nightmares and shit. Number 48 on this list is The Descent, which I had ranked really high. and Rossi was the only one to give it points. I thought this one was great. It came out in 2005, I believe, and it was the beginning of sort of, there are original ideas still in horror, where there are just a long run of remakes and sequels. And this I thought was good because there was two things that was scary about this movie. One, the idea of just being claustrophobic, stuck in a cave, and then there was the creatures that was in there. It was simple, but I fucking loved it, and I'm surprised that nobody else besides me and Ross even had it on the list.
I'm gonna tell you like this.
I haven't seen it.
I just pleaded ignorance.
Blind spot for me. Blind spot for me, totally.
Oh, you guys, come on! This movie, it's got a lot going for it as well. So I suggest the three of you get it together before Halloween. Maybe do a little watch along, the three of you.
A Davey Twitch watch party.
That honestly,
if it's on Primo, we can do it.
Not sure about that, but I agree with Keefe. It has.
Is it on Tubi?
Don't subscribe. If Billy doesn't have a login, I don't use it.
Tubi's free. Tubi's legit. Tubi's free.
Tubi's for everybody. It's for everybody.
I gotta go. I gotta go sign in.
Goo, no bullshit. It's on Tubi.
It's definitely on Tubi.
Shut up. Is it really?
Yeah, I just looked it up.
All right, I'll watch it tonight.
He has it on his homepage. But Tubi is filled with horror movies.
Yeah.
And then there was one ridiculous action movie, and I can't think of what it is. And then all 4 seasons of Alf.
What more do you want?
Makes sense.
That's the problem with Descent now is I've read so much about it and seen it on so many lists. I know what the movie is, and now I almost feel like I don't need to watch it, but I should.
It's kind of like how Mac doesn't have to see the Sleepaway Camp because he's heard me talk about it so many times.
I heard you and Keith do a 3-hour podcast on it.
It's a good one. It's another one.
Dude, also on Tubi.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That's also on Prime. But just real quick on The Descent, it's a movie that brings in a lot of the elements that you don't get in a lot of these other movies that we talk about. It's more just like, this shit could happen. Like, we don't know what's going on in these caves.
No
and
idea.
Space, underwater.
Slow down.
I'm not slowing down. Do you know? Have you discovered all the ins and outs of these
descended
caves?
into a cave?
You ever
David?
been under the ocean, Davey?
Yeah, have you? It's scary down there.
It's scary.
Shark?
You're goddamn right it is.
But yeah, it's a good movie.
All right.
Period.
Coming in at number 47 on our list is Black Christmas. This is a movie that only me and Goo ranked.
That's a
Me and
trend.
Goo seeing eye to eye. This is one of the original slasher movies, and it's fantastic.
It's this, Psycho, and like 30 Italian movies. And this is what led to Halloween.
Right, and a movie called Peeping Tom, which came out the same year as Psycho.
Yeah.
That's sort of what started. So this, if you like Halloween, and spoiler alert, we all very much liked Halloween.
We do.
They got so much from Black Christmas, and they've done 2 different remakes that have both been bad. But the original is just girls in a sorority house on Christmas Eve, and there's a psycho killer coming back. So it's like legit Halloween.
Guys, also hear us out.
Halloween.
The Killer's in the House.
What?
Boom.
I didn't vote for it because it's more of a Christmas movie than it is a Halloween movie. So I didn't vote
not
for
to
it.
tip my hand at all, but we are going to do the top 25 movies of Christmas, and this is going to be on my list.
Oh, by the way, so do we have to? We're voting 25 Christmas movies.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
You got time. One last thing.
Do you need my list tonight?
Real quick on Black Christmas, I did my first viewing of the original. I'll be honest, I never saw it. And because I saw not the 2019 version, and I didn't like that one. The original, like Goose said, you could tell this movie, they don't know where they're trying to go with it, when they're trying to get there. But I do see what you guys are talking about, the prequel to, or like how they got to Halloween, what they were trying to get to. And Margot Kidder.
Margot Robbie.
Woo!
Margot Robbie.
Yeah, she
Lois
was
Lane.
good back in the day.
She sure was.
Robbie.
All right,
Marge
number
Bob.
40. Number 46 on this list is I think the only movie that made it that I've never seen, and that is You're Next. And Davey, you like this one very much.
I love this one, and I'm surprised that you haven't seen it because it's basically like almost like Clue, but like a slasher movie. Like, so it's a bunch of people in a house, like Clue. It's the same setup, and you're trying to figure out who the killer is. And there's a bunch of like booby traps and shit around the house. It's awesome. Like, this movie's great, and I'm stunned. And I think you're taking a hard line on it that you haven't seen it for some reason, but you really, really need to see this movie.
I'm not taking a hard line on it. It's just not available for free. And
It's not on Tubi. Keepe's not going
There's
to
the
watch
hard
it.
line. I got to pay for it.
yeah, that's the hard line. It's $4. I'm not paying for that.
But it's a movie that like I watched it on a whim. One night I was just like, the wife and I wanted to watch a horror movie, so we watched it, and I was sucked in from the beginning.
I bet I know why you wanted to watch it with the wife.
Why is that?
It's a natural aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Were you guys also slurping down some oysters?
No.
I was so scared and so hard for an hour and a half.
You hold
Rossi,
each other. You pull the cuddle hustle, which is my move.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Davey and Rossi were the only ones to rank it. I haven't seen it. Mac and Goo, have either of you guys seen it?
No, I haven't seen this
Okay,
yet.
so that's why
you guys gotta see
It is relatively newer too, so
Yeah.
some of these 2010s
2011.
ones, I just haven't seen.
Rossi, what do you like about it?
To be honest, what Davey said, I'm a big. I got the home invasion vibe too, which I find terrifying. I've realized that's all I'm scared of these days. So this movie doesn't scare me as much as it's just a badass movie throughout the entire film. There's so many elements of it, from the music that they play to the like Davey said, a little bit of the mystery of it, the intrigue. There's a lot that pays off really well, and I think nobody on this podcast would not like it.
Okay.
So for those of you scoring at home, Rossi is afraid of children and home invasions.
So far,
Correct.
So far.
Imagine a child invading your home.
Fuck. Child's Play spoiler doesn't make the list, but that's literally one of the scariest things in the world.
It did not make the list. Coming in at 45. It's funny, back-to-back movies that only Davey and Rossi had on the list.
It's like you guys are the same person.
I don't know.
I'm starting to worry about my sanity a little bit. If my takes are in line with Rossi's, I'm a little nervous.
Back to back, you guys putting it on the list. This is a movie that I saw. I wanted to like. It was being billed as the next Exorcist. I did not think it was that good. I did, however, think Toni Collette's performance was as good as anybody's on this entire list.
Mm-hmm.
She was great.
And I think that's what made my list, was the fact that Toni Collette was so good.
So good.
I will admit that I think this came in about halfway. I'm looking at the points right now. It was like exactly in the middle of mine. It was one of the better what I call like new horror, where it's not so much a straight slasher movie. It's not so much a thriller, but it's somewhere in that like cerebral psychological horror, like the Babadook or like something like that, where you're not really sure what the bad thing is until the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to that
ahead,
point, I really, really liked the first 30 minutes of this.
Yeah.
And then I was sort of thrown off with the direction of the rest of the movie. And then I fucking hated the ending. Hated the ending so much.
Polarizing.
And that's really why it's not on the list for me. Like if we had to make 10 more, this might make my list, but I just hated the ending so much.
Yeah, ending I did not like either.
That hurt it for sure, because it was just so convoluted. It was just so like whatever. But like I really did buy in to the first like hour 15. Like I was in. Like I was all in on this movie. And Toni Collette was so good. They built the suspense up so well, and then it kind of fell apart. But
the shot of her in the corner of the fucking room was terrifying.
Yes,
that was
the shot of her face when the guy's on fire and her husband's on fire, or whatever. Like that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah,
that was scary as fuck.
Yeah.
Number 44 on the list was Sinister. This movie is fucked.
It's fucked.
So this movie, me, Davey, and Rossi all had it on there, and we all had it kind of similarly ranked. Like it's not a top 25 horror. It's probably more like a top 40 horror, top 35 type, right around in there. Now, Mac and Goo, have you guys seen it and didn't like it, or did you just not see it?
So first of all, apparently Science came out recently and said this is the scariest movie of all time. Did you guys?
It really
see that?
is.
I did read that article. Right?
I did read that.
I don't know what it is about Derrickson's horror movies, but I do not care for them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't hit for me. It's a lot of jump scares, and it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
I need a little bit more.
I had more important movies to put on the list.
And here's what did it for me. I think this came out around. So I kept getting confused.
2012, I think.
Insidious,
also good.
Sinister,
yep,
and The Conjuring, like all came out at like the same time. So like this kind of gets lost in the shuffle with those movies. I think this is a way better movie than Insidious.
This is scary, and this also had like a good ending too. Like unlike Hereditary, this had a good like freaky ending.
Yeah, like this and Ethan Hawke is fucking awesome in this movie.
And there's ones, and I'll fully admit I can still be a little bit of a fraidy cat, and there are some that I give it the old "would I watch this by myself in the basement" test at night. Sinister, nope,
not a chance.
Thank you.
Nope, that is with the lights on during the day. I'm like, yeah, I watch Sinister. I'm tough.
Summertime with a bathing suit on, just in case you.
Not fucking around with this tonight. I'm not going to finish this podcast and pop in Sinister by myself. No way. Scary as shit. Go, did you see this one?
Yeah, I have other movies. You can't put everything on the list.
All right, calm down. Everybody relax. All right, this one blows my mind. Coming in at number 43 was The Devil's Rejects, which I had ranked third. It is my
I know. This is crazy.
Third favorite horror movie. I think it's awesome. I love everything
we
about
all
it.
have one that we had in our top like 5 that no one else voted for.
Yes. So real quick poll here before I get into how good this movie is. Has anybody not seen it? Fuck, you guys have all seen it? Nobody voted for it? The top 50?
It used to always be on Cinemax.
I thought the House of a Thousand Corpses was better. I
kind of agree.
I don't think this is a horror movie.
This is a horror movie. It's the Fireflies.
I don't think it is. I understand that, but like it's in the same way that like Army of Darkness really isn't a horror movie. Like,
yeah, but
so
you voted for Army of Darkness,
right? Because it's one of my favorite movies. But like what I'm saying,
it's falling on yourself.
But I fully admit, like I said, no. What I fully admit is that it's not. It's more. It has horror elements, but it's like more fantasy comedy. Like this one, I don't. It's more like a.
This is a really funny movie.
One of the guys cut off another guy's face and put it on his face.
What is this, Bewitched?
No, that's Silence of the Lambs.
Can I talk? Can I talk on my own podcast? For
Can I finish?
I'm having a hard time getting the rationale here.
It's like it's more of like a Natural Born Killers to me than it is a horror movie.
All right.
Does that make sense?
I mean, I guess. I thought it's the sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses.
I'm aware.
What would you call that movie?
That's a horror movie.
Oh, but Keefe, I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is the sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1, and that is a comedy. Also, Gremlins 2.
Is that what they call it? Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1?
I'm pretty sure they were prepared for having sequel.
I call it year 1.
Gremlins and Gremlins 2.
Dude, horror movies should just start doing that now. Like the first one, just call it 1. They're like, we know what we're doing. We're gonna be here a while.
I'm actually surprised that like Scary Movie didn't call it Scary Movie 1.
Right, just like this is what we're ready for it.
I'm too clever for those movies.
Dude, this movie is so good.
Don't go at the Wayans brothers.
I will.
I thought House of a Thousand Corpses was like good in its own way, but it was also like that was very like fantastical, and it was like whereas Devil's Rejects was more real, and you were like, this could happen. These are psychos that are just going on a killing spree, and then you introduce the Unholy Two, these two bounty hunters, which need their own movie, DDP and Danny Trejo. It's got the greatest soundtrack of all time. Like,
does have a good soundtrack
in movie soundtrack.
I'm pretty sure that you claim Scream 3 had the greatest soundtrack of all time.
No, this is all like Southern rock and shit.
Yeah,
like they play
right.
Freebird and stuff.
Scream 3 had the best soundtrack. Like, hey, here's the soundtrack, and none of these fucking were in the movie. Whereas Devil's Rejects is like use of like Guardians of the Galaxy level use of songs.
Are those your top 2? Right there?
1, 2.
Okay.
I Know What You Did Last Summer is a really good soundtrack as well.
Also good one, Rossi. And that movie didn't make the list. I voted for it. Nobody had it on there.
Batman Forever too.
You bastards. You bastards. All right, I still can't believe the Devil's Rejects. Everybody hated it, but whatever.
Didn't hate it. It just wasn't like
it was 51.
Yeah, it's 51 on everyone's
Move on.
I had it at 52.
All right, number 42 is Dawn of the Dead, and we went. A lot of classic horror fans are going to be mad at us, but we went with the remake, the Zack Snyder 2004 Dawn of the Dead. I had it ranked, Davey had it ranked, and Mac had this one ranked. This movie's fantastic.
I love this movie.
Yeah,
it's a great modern. It's not a remake. It's more of an update. If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
like they updated it to kind of make more sense now. You know, and I with the scene where the guy's on the roof of the holding up signs of who to kill is so funny. He's like Rosie O'Donnell, like holds up the sign. Right. I thought that was piss yourself funny. I thought
because what I like about it is it gets into like the monotony of a zombie apocalypse. Like there are gonna be days where you're just fucking sitting there, not really running from zombies, but you're like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna be hanging out on this roof trying to fucking play a game. Like that's what I really enjoyed about it. Like I kind of got into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they basically took the mall and zombies, and then the rest of the movie they came up with on their own. And I was reading a thing. James Gunn had a series of tweets, and I didn't remember this at all. But apparently in 2004, so many people were pissed that they were making this, and they were trying to get it like shut down, and they were giving Snyder and Gunn all types of shit. That these guys that ran these like popular websites at this time were like super critical of it, and then they finally like saw it or like parts of it, and they're like, oh yeah, no, this might be pretty good, and it like kind of like helped save the movie, like because it was everybody was just shitting on it before they'd even seen it. But
might be the best
Zombies
Zack
Run.
Snyder movie.
Could be.
Yeah, I think it is.
Zombies Run in the movie, by the way.
And
that's pretty cool.
Just a great title for a horror movie too. Like Halloween, obviously, is great. Dawn of the Dead. That's just a great title for a movie.
Now, I'll just say that I didn't have this on my list. I had the original one on there, but I also kind of didn't think of this one. I should have thought of this one as well. I do really like this movie.
Yeah, they're both. I mean, they're both really good, and like I'd be happy with either one on the list. Number 41, we're going another one that can be tricky with the is it a comedy or is it a horror movie? An American Werewolf in London, and I thought we just needed to have like a werewolf movie included. So me, Davey, and Rossi voted for this one. Mac and Goo did not have it on their list.
And this has the distinction of being the first horror movie I've ever seen.
Oh,
so
okay.
I saw this at a very, very young age, and the reason I saw this movie is because I think it was John Landis. Was it John Landis who directed American Werewolf in London?
Yep.
He directed. I had this. This is a kind of anecdotal, but I had the VHS tape of the making of the Thriller video, which John Landis directed, and I saw the special effects and like all that stuff, and I loved that video. And the werewolf transformation that happens in it scared the shit out of me as a little kid. To this day, like it kind of gives me like, ugh. But it's a movie that's more of a comedy, more of a spoof. But it's great. It's a great
There's
movie.
real scares though in there.
There's real scares in it, and it's
and they were ahead of its time too. Like in 81, like the people weren't doing that kind of shit for like here's a werewolf, you know. Right. So pretty good.
Also, killer soundtrack in this one too. There's no actual soundtrack can go by, but there's like music of pop culture of the time is insane. And just one last thing about it, you're right. There's the part where they go to this like just bar and like they're just like outcasted and they're basically like sent to the wolves. Like that scares me because that makes me think anytime I'm anywhere, like you don't know where you are. You just open a door. You don't know if that shit's gonna go down with you. Like throw these guys to the wolves.
Correct.
It was Griffin Dunn gets more and more like decayed as the movie gets on too. Which is another scary thing too.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
I'll just point out right now that I was the only one to put the Thriller music video on my list.
Yeah, I didn't make it. I went with movies.
Close.
Yeah,
it's a real movie.
Well, Keefe, technically, short film.
Short film. Were we including short films?
I thought we were. It's
Top
17
50
minutes
horror
long.
movies. I guess it's semantics. Number 40 is Audition, the Japanese horror movie that only me and Goo ranked. And Goo
this
ranked
is frightening. This is
very high.
Fucking scary as shit.
Yeah.
This is very scary.
And it's graphic.
It's very graphic. It's gross.
Do you guys like torture?
Not really.
Yes, big into torture.
Then this is the movie for you.
This is
big torture guy.
A movie that I've seen in clips only on the internet, and it gets to the point, and this is why I fell out of love with the Saw movies. It just gets too gruesome. And if you're asking me to watch these movies, I could. There's no way. There's no way I could sit
It's
through
gruesome.
this whole movie.
I own this movie on DVD because I'm a psychopath. But
isn't the top 50 horror movies that you want to watch again, though? These are the top 50 horror movies. I've seen this once.
Fair.
I'm not going to watch it again.
I'm not upset with it being on the list. I'm just not going to watch it.
I got it.
If you're saying that, then it falls into the same category. Like why I hate the movie Hostel is it's nothing scary. It's just people just like torturing people.
It's gross.
Yeah.
Like it's not scary to me.
Yeah, I feel like
torture scares me, you know?
Well, it does, but at the same time, like, you know, who's Eli Roth who did
Yes.
Hostel? But it was like, what's
Newton's
the point?
Own.
Like, yeah.
My Achilles still hasn't recovered.
Yeah, that was gruesome.
Oh.
And the other thing with Audition too is they do a good switcheroo because you're thinking, oh, this is the guy is mean to the girl.
Flip that around.
Wait a minute. The girl's fucking around with the guy.
Just
Great
the
stuff.
stills from this movie are fucking terrifying.
It's scary. Yeah, it's scary. Number 39 is Zombieland, which only Mac and Goo ranked, and this is one where I definitely considered all comedy.
There are enough zombie moments in the movie for me to put it on my list, and this is in the range now, like 20 to 30, 30 to 40, where there's a lot of good movies. None of them actually scare me. Like I can't sit down and watch this day and actually be scared by. So I was comfortable putting it in that 20 to 30 range.
I'm not even sure I had it on my list, but you know, zombie commentary. We
You
at
did.
that point had a lot of I'm not gonna argue.
You had it
with
ranked really high. You had it ranked higher than
20.
Mac did.
Oh, 20.
No,
I think I had it.
I did. Holy smokes.
it
Okay, yeah.
24th.
I mean, look, I really like this movie.
It has zombie in the title.
No.
That's a good
I do
point.
really like the movie. And look, I'm a bit of a comedy boy myself.
Yeah.
Davey knows this, obviously.
I do know. Yep.
Right.
And it's good zombie commentary. Zombies are at the peak of their power at this point. There's enough scares in there.
Okay.
It's obviously not the scariest movie, but when creating my list, it's movies that I love to watch around the Halloween time, around the spooky time of the year. It doesn't have to be a straight horror.
Okay.
Just horror elements.
That was some real good mental gymnastics there. I also really like this because of what I said for Dawn of the Dead. They show like the in-between time of a zombie apocalypse. So like life during a zombie apocalypse.
That's
I just
true.
like the idea of that.
Yeah, I like that too. Number 38, although 2 people did vote for this, this is definitely Goo's Devil's
I love
Rejects.
this movie.
This would
I
be
love
number
this
38
fucking
is
movie.
The Fly. And
Yeah.
Goo had
Any
it ranked
movie
too
with
high.
Jeff Goldblum's dick in a jar. We're doing that.
Now you know why I voted for it.
Like,
So
this
Goo,
is-
this is
That's
your
it. That's all we got.
No.
This is another one he just loves
This is a
watching
good top
around
five.
Halloween season.
Look, I love Jeff Goldblum. This movie is
Okay.
gross as shit. This
Oh.
is I would say the second best horror remake of all time, which does say a lot. There's a lot of horror remakes, and there are a couple good ones here. And this movie, just as you keep on going, the visual effects on it are just so good and so graphic, and I love it.
All right. Number 37 on our list is Paranormal Activity. The guys at Pop Culture Pile Driver did a whole episode on this. And my one question for you, Rossi, is you had it ranked super high on your list. It's like your 25th favorite horror movie. And yet when you guys sat down to rank it in your scale or to grade it, your scale's out of 11, and you said this was a 6 out of an 11.
Correct.
How the fuck does that make sense?
That's
Because
a failing grade, right?
No.
Yeah.
First of all, the way I don't give things these outstanding grades all the time. Not a high
It's like a
grade, very high.
57.
It's still my halfway point. Think about it, like a 6. That's still like that's past. That's
You
past
think
halfway
it's
to
the
12.
25th best horror movie ever
Yeah.
made, and
But
you
it's
think
not- doesn't-
barely like barely decent.
Yeah,
No,
the
he
horror
failed
movie-
it. No, he failed it.
I did not
6 out of
fail.
11 is below a 60.
It's like a
You
58.
gave him-
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
half these movies on the list you
Sliding
give a
scale.
thumbs down to? Like, fuck out of here then.
And I'm not. Listen, I gave it a 6. I gave it a hard 6 out of 11. It was the
Dude, I'll
scariest
give you
movie
a
I
hard
ever.
6. You're
Oh,
not
come on
careful.
over. Come on over. I know where you live. It's the scariest movie I've seen.
Do you
in
want me to
theaters.
talk about it since I actually liked it?
Yeah.
You can check out our episode of Pop Culture Pile Driver. Now here's Mac to talk about Paranormal.
What Rossi was saying, I actually will echo. Scariest, other than The Strangers, which you'll see coming up, scariest theater experience of my adult life, for sure. The jump scares here got me. The production value, I think, is what makes it so good, because it was kind of, Goo likes to use the word crass for some movies. It was low budget, and it seemed very real to me. I thought it was real for a period of time, and I just... Not that I totally believe in ghosts and demons, but this made me think. This made me wonder a little bit.
I agree. It was good. I didn't have it ranked on my list, but I liked the idea of it. I think maybe more than the execution of it. Coming in at number 36 is The Mist, which me and Davey and Rossi all had ranked. And I would just say about this movie, it's a absolute slow burn, maybe even a slog, but the most fucked ending
Oh,
in
the ending.
entire thing, and that's why I voted for it.
And like, if you guys haven't seen this movie, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but the end will just fucking rip your heart out.
Yeah, that's kind of. But anyway, I
Yeah.
would say aside like finding out what the hell's actually what's in the mist freaks me out. There's like tentacles. There's like flying crap. There's all sorts of stuff going on. Yeah, the scene at the end, it stuck with me for like 3 nights. Like I remember
Haunting.
going to sleep and just being like, oh shit. Like,
I remember because I watched the movie by myself, and all I wanted to do was like talk to somebody about the ending. So I was looking around like I was in a theater. Like, anybody? Did you catch what happened here? And it's also, if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, it's like the entire cast of The Walking Dead is in this movie.
I think I'll say I didn't have it ranked, but I do think it's one of those all-time great questions of would you do what Thomas Jane's character does?
Great, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think I would.
I wouldn't.
And even without knowing the end, I'd be like, let's fucking kind of figure this out.
Right.
I don't think.
Right. Roll
All
the
right.
dice.
Number 35 on our list was ranked just by me and Davey, but Davey, you had it ranked super high, so I'll let you
The third on my list.
let the right one in.
Let the right one in. Now, this is the original, not Let Me In, but Let the Right One In, which I believe is a Swedish movie?
Mm-hmm.
Swedish.
The American version did the best it could to be. It's the same director, same writer, tried to do a shot for shot, but American with like Chloe Grace Moretz and like all that stuff. But there was something that was kind of lost. It was good. But this, I'm going to say this right now on this podcast. This is the best vampire movie ever made. I will say that with my dying breath, that this is the best, most well-written vampire movie ever written. Now, it takes place in Sweden in the winter, where all obviously like what's that
30 Days of Night.
30 Days of Night, which is kind of the same thing, where it's dark all the time. And the idea, and Rossi, have you seen this movie?
I have.
This is right up your alley because you have the unknown and you have a child. So this vampire who's been around for her familiar is this old guy, right? So she's been around for a very long time, but she looks like a kid.
So
which is like
Rossi's not afraid of it because vampire can't come in unless he invites her in.
Yeah,
that's
let
the
right one
idea.
in.
Yeah, so
let the right one in. Yeah.
So it's the story of this kid who's getting bullied, and he kind of befriends this girl who he thinks is a girl his age, and it's actually a vampire. And they, but it's incredibly well written. It's incredibly well paced. It's suspenseful. There are scary moments when you actually see her do her thing. Mm-hmm. It's phenomenal, and a lot of it, which I like, is implied. There are some moments where she's full vampire, but most of it is implied, which they don't hit you over the head with it. There's no like real like teeth, like like retractable teeth or anything. Yeah. But it's just a wonderful, wonderful movie.
No one says Blair.
No one goes Blair. No, yeah. What was that? What the Greg the Bunny? Was that show the Greg that with Count? Remember that show where the guy was like,
I remember Greg the Bunny. I don't know.
It was like the vampire puppet was Count Blair, and he would go, "What are you doing, Blair?" Like he would say it at the end of every sentence. It's not that. No, I will say it again. It is the best vampire movie ever made.
I've only seen the American version.
If a Dracula's chasing you,
turn around and trip the bitch.
Yeah,
that's all you do. Slappy Pappy.
Number 34 on the list is The Sixth Sense. Mac and Goo are the only two that ranked it. They both ranked it really high.
Ghosts.
I guess I didn't really think of it as a horror movie. And
Misha Barton.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is a horror movie, right?
It's very tense throughout the movie. I guess there's not
the Misha Barton scene is
the Misha
crazy.
Barton scene is crazy. Terrifying. Yeah. And you have to consider this came out when Goo and I were like 10 or 11. Yeah. And so seeing it at 10 or 11 versus let's say 17 or 18 is definitely a different experience.
And then I watched it 3 times in humanities class.
There you go.
It is one of those movies that you're just really uneasy the whole time. And obviously it has the twist at the end, which makes it, I think, a great movie, but it's not super scary. You're just uneasy the whole time.
So this was one of the scariest scenes that I watched growing up, and a movie that we don't have on this list. Sorry to spoil things, but from Signs, when the alien walks out of the bushes, that haunted my dreams.
That's spooky.
Yeah,
that's spooky. Number 33 on the list is Carrie, which Mac and Goo and Rossi all had. I didn't, and I guess I don't know. I don't know if I slipped my mind, and if I did, maybe it'd be low. But it's obviously very good. It's the first Stephen King adaptation too, and obviously just a fucking pretty freaky shit at the end.
Watch this again, Keefe, because you might change your mind, just a little bit, because this movie, when you watch, like I watched it again recently, it's effed. It has all the disturbing elements, the bullying, the horrible things that happen. That actually makes me uneasy. The relationship with her mother, disturbing, uncomfortable. What like a girl, what she goes through in puberty. There's so much crap and elements of this movie that are uneasy. That like it could be. I could see people hating it for that reason, and also saying it's their favorite scary movie.
Actually, Rossi, you were just on Change My Mind, right?
I was.
Yes, Fryer pointed out that he thinks that Keefe might have been a high school bully. So this is something that Keefe should be afraid of.
It could be. There's a couple of Carries out there.
I can vouch for him. He was not.
Fryer said, and I quote, Keefe bullied me into taking my shirt off.
That did happen.
Blame me for your shit. I didn't do it.
I turned on the pod for 1 second. I was like, this is a good way to.
The other thing that plays into Carrie is CC Spacek is kind of jarring just to look at.
She is.
That's scary.
And the mom's scary.
To this day, she's hard to look at.
And the best thing ever is it led to both the skit and the title of Adam Sandler's first comedy CD. They're all gonna laugh at you from this. There you go.
Which, by the way, when I hadn't seen Carrie when I first got that CD, I think I was in like 7th grade. So
yeah, right.
I totally didn't get it.
I know. And then you saw it, you're like, oh, it's from Sandler.
It's from Carrie. Yeah.
Number 32 on the list is Don't Breathe. This is again one of the more modern ones on the list. I love this movie. And
this movie's great.
It's a weird one. And this is one where me, Davey, and Mac all had it ranked. I had it ranked. Me and Mac both had it ranked really high. Davey had it on his list. The other two guys did not. I just thought this one was good because it wasn't so cut and dry. Like, here's who you're rooting for to survive, because the three people broke into a guy's house and you're like, why am I rooting for them? But then it's like the twists that are in there, and then it's scary. It's like it's home invader, but then you're actually like kind of rooting for the people who did the home invasion. It's fucking weird, but it's good.
A mind fuck. It's a total mind fuck. And in this day and age, there aren't a ton of new ideas, and this was brand new. Never seen anything like this. Yeah. And it's also very real. It's very real. It's not, super extravagant or anything. It's just another movie that the whole time that you're kind of on the edge of your seat. There's only like 3 or 4 crazy things that happen, but the whole fucking movie, you're on the edge of your seat.
But what scares me is that what scared me initially about this movie, and you said there's some twists and stuff that happen. You think the movie's going one way, and then it takes a hard fucking left. But that the fact that like in Michigan, in like Detroit, like areas surrounding Detroit are like fucking ghost towns.
Yeah.
Like that's terrifying. Right. Like the fact that there are like suburban areas that are just like lawless. Because remember at the time too,
squatters.
Like, Detroit, but Detroit had gone bankrupt. So they didn't have any cops. They didn't have any firemen. They didn't have any like they had state cops, but like no municipal cops. So this was just a lawless fucking area.
Yeah.
And like people were leaving, people were squatting, people were abandoning their houses. So a really fucking weird vibe to this movie.
This really quickly, I would have had this ranked really high. This is a total misstep on my part. So who knows where this thing would have ranked, but I didn't want to change my voting once I saw all of your guys.
Yeah.
That was one thing I tried to stay away from. And just last thing, the syringe scene, F you guys. And that was
the baster.
Rough stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think you can make the argument that this is the best horror movie of the last 20 or 25 years.
Yep, it's up there.
10 years? Maybe
you could
10?
check the archive. Me and Davey did best of the last decade, or the last 2 decades anyway. It's in the archives. You can check it out. We did it last year. This was on the list. I forget where it ranked. Also on the list is the movie that comes in at number 31. That would be Green Room. And kind of no surprise, it's the same. Me, Davey, and Mac had it ranked, just like with Don't Breathe. They came out around a similar time. This one's also got like sort of like gross feeling. It's like one of those like punk bands that they're traveling. They go to like a neo-Nazi bar and they're performing. Then shit goes completely sideways. And this is one that I forget. Was this just like released on demand or something? I don't even think it was.
It came out on Amazon Prime or something.
Oh, maybe
it was some sort of streaming release. I don't remember ever it getting any theater play. This is another one that the whole time you're it's a frantic pace. You feel uneasy, and again, maybe not a straight horror movie, but if you're gonna make me feel uneasy for an hour and a half, that's good enough for me.
Like getting chased by Nazis is scary enough.
That's scary. That's some scary.
Very real.
Dogs are involved too.
Oh yeah, dogs are involved. Keep going.
We always rip through some of these. Number 30 on this list. I'm the only one that didn't have it, and it honestly must have. It's a misstep. It's a good one. It's Misery, another Stephen King adaptation. All of you guys had it. Mac and Goo had it in their top half.
To me, I couldn't think of anything worse than being someone. I mean, no one here is famous, but Keefe has a little bit of airplay in Boston. Could you imagine a crazy super fan somehow had you tied up in this scenario? There's nothing worse. Knows everything about you. You don't know anything about them.
Well, let me ask you this:
they're just slowly giving you a little.
Does she look like Kathy Bates? Or...
That's a good question, actually, because I could flip everything.
I've changed the game on you real fast.
Again, maybe not a straight out horror scene. Very eerie, and the goddamn fucking mallet scene. No, thank you.
Oh my god, that's messed up for sure. That's way up there. Number 29 on the list, and this is one that, despite what I think of Rossi's takes, me and him see eye to eye on this. We talked about it at work when it came out. That would be A Quiet Place. I hate it. Rossi hates it, but you three guys all liked it, and it comes in at number 29.
I
She
love
homes
it.
alone herself.
I love it. In fact,
Yeah.
Now, I know why, Keith, we've been over this, and I know why you don't like this movie, and to some point, I agree with you.
Okay.
That, like, if you knew the environment you were around, why would you do some of the things that these people do?
So many of the things. All of
Right.
the things.
But I think
at some point you have to repopulate the Earth, right? That's kind of the idea.
Not-
At some
not
point,
at
you
all.
just might
No, it's not.
accidentally have sex.
Yo, yeah, the point. I'm going to
It's happened to me. one time I tripped, I fell down the stairs, and all of a sudden it's like, it happens.
The baster, you
everywhere.
got the baster back.
Yeah.
I would consider repopulating the Earth the moment I can step on a leaf and not die. How's
I
that?
don't think they
Yeah,
had
but
the
then
baby
you're
on
just
purpose.
not going to have sex. So what if it was an baby?
I
They
think
had the
it was an
baby on
uh-oh
purpose.
baby.
They had the baby on purpose.
Why
It's
would they have the
clearly-
baby on purpose?
The
Why would
first
they have
scene in the
baby on purpose?
movie.
They
they
definitely
lost
have the
it.
baby
Yeah,
on
they
purpose.
definitely did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
They definitely did it on
I-
purpose.
I
They were
think-
replacing a kid.
and I think that, but
what you do with a
my
dog.
thoughts aside, but like any horror movie, there's some suspension of disbelief. You need to add that element of like danger to it. You need to add something to it that makes it just a little bit more dangerous. Does it make sense all the time? No. Why didn't they just move their house next to the waterfall? So why didn't you just live next to the? I get it. I get what you're
and then
saying.
live in the
Landslides.
waterfall.
And why didn't you just live next to the waterfall and then go to the farm every day and go back and forth? Right?
Why'd that one guy
get it.
scream at him? What was
Because
his
he wanted to
problem?
die.
He lost his wife.
How
lo-
come there were like so many newspaper articles written about what was going on? How come they were able to print those and then they were able to like get those and cut them out and put
Too
them on
much
the wall?
Oh, I
Too
think
much
there was like
thinking.
a month. I
I mean,
think there
if
was
we
like an
wanted to
initial,
go,
like,
if you wanted to go down
Do you
this
want the
road,
news to
like-
stop, Keith? Do you just want the news to
Listen,
stop?
A Quiet Place
I
2
do.
is going to solve everything, and you're going to be
Oh,
back
don't-
in on this movie.
Thank God they delayed that crap. But one thing I want to say, the part that aggravated me, I almost walked out of the theater. I was so pissed off. John Krasinski's big heroic moment
Sucked.
was bullshit. The
It
kids
sucked.
could have died 2 seconds
Tears.
later.
Tears.
No, you didn't have tears. You didn't have
No,
tears.
I
Tears.
like the movie a lot, and that
Right.
scene sucked. The
It
death
was
scene
awful.
was horrible.
Great
Yeah.
scene.
So bad.
Great.
No.
It was awful.
Anyway.
It didn't make any sense. The kids didn't even get away from him. They still had to
disagree.
do their own thing.
I think it was.
He
I
bought
think
them
it was
some
nice.
time. You would do that if you were a father.
You absolutely.
I'd
would.
run away.
We are
I'd be
fathers.
running. Ah!
1, 2, and 3. We.
So you're saying you wouldn't do that? You
Four.
wouldn't do
I
that
think-
if you were in Krasinski's
No,
spot.
I would do that. He took
Thank
so no, but he took
No, he
so
didn't.
long to do it.
Well, you had to get the right pitch of the scream.
No, that's not even the point. He was 5 feet away from where the kids were when he did the scream. It wasn't like he ran and they were like, "Oh, chase me this way." He was literally like from my.
It was like a
Thanks to
good
the screen.
football toss away.
No,
40-yard toss.
I got a weak arm. I don't know what a football toss is to you.
I could throw it a quarter mile. All right, coming in at 28 is Poltergeist. Once again, another movie that I was the only one that kept it off. I like this movie. I don't love it. It wasn't for me, but I'm glad it's on the list. I know it's a very, very popular one. Let's see. Goo had it the highest.
Okay, so number 1, rated PG.
Yep.
Crazy.
No.
Right.
Number
chance.
2, the story behind the movie, I think makes it spookier.
Mhm. Actual hauntings going on. Actual
Yeah.
dead bodies where
People
they
dying.
film this. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, people dead.
Burial site.
The little
Characters
girl.
are actors
The little
dying.
girl,
Yeah.
spooky as shit.
Yeah, there she is again.
Scary.
Creeping in. They're
Yeah.
here. F that. Don't
scary.
need that.
I can't pretend I'm passionate about this one, but I did have it like 28th on my list.
Yes.
The actress
Yeah.
Zelda Rubinstein looks like she
Oh,
could be
God.
my grandmother.
Zelda Rubinstein.
R.I.P. Pick of the pod right there.
Yeah, for sure. Number 27 on the list is one of the original horror movies. Came out in 1968. That'd be Night of the Living Dead. Mac is the only one keeping this from a unanimous selection, and Davey had this in his top 5 or 6.
Top 5, and this is again just a classic horror movie.
Yeah.
You know, one that is kind of the. You talk about movies like Black Christmas being kind of like a building block for these types of movies, and this is obviously that in like the zombie genre.
For sure.
Shot in black and white, on like film black and white, super scary, super raw. In that kind of like Texas Chainsaw, like someone's just running. Someone there has a camera, like so you're seeing it through like
Yeah.
someone else's eyes, who's actually there. And just a
And a
movie
lot-
I saw way too young.
Oh yeah, and a lot
You know?
of social commentary. If you want to really
Yep.
unpack everything that they're telling you in this movie, and some of the most fucked up scenes too,
Yeah,
with like the stuff going on in the basement and everything else, really eerie. But one of the classics, and it's funny. Scott Snyder, one of our favorite comic book writers, he was on with Fryer and Dr. Joe on their TLDR podcast, and Snyder does a lot of horror comics, and he said this is his favorite horror movie. And I'm like, makes sense. Like it's one that I think deserves to be.
So what you're saying is Scott Snyder and I should be friends.
Yes. Were we counting his vote?
I didn't count it, but it still made its way up to number 27, which is nothing to sneeze at. Let's see, number 26 on the list. Another one of the newer ones from the last decade or so is 10 Cloverfield Lane, and I guess some might call this more, I don't know, like psychological
thriller.
Or thriller type thing.
Thriller.
I had it on my list. Mac had it on his list, and Rossi had it on his list.
I had 11 on mine. It was the one across the street.
Right across the street. Didn't get enough votes. Didn't get enough votes. But this is so good to me. Like it's tied in with Cloverfield, which Rossi, I know you liked. I didn't like the first one as much. But it's a loose tie-in. In fact, they made the movie, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, now it's a part of it." But just the acting in there, and you don't know if John Goodman's a good guy, a bad guy, somewhere in between. Mary Elizabeth Winstead. So the whole thing in that bunker, and then at the end when they get out, it to me is a horror movie, and I had it ranked like 12th or something. I love it.
Can I ask a question to the group? Did you find the ending of the movie good? Like add to the horror of it, or did it ruin it for you?
Kind of ruined it.
100% added it to me because I think as the viewer the whole time you were starting to think Goodman was kind of on one. You're like, he's probably overselling this. They don't need to be down there. And as soon as she gets up top, you're like, oh fuck, he was right.
I would have rather have not known. I would have rather not known whether or not he was right or wrong.
Like the last scene is her getting up out of the hatch.
It's her opening the hatch and then at the end of the movie.
That'd be good.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a good question because obviously I think I went into it because you're like, oh, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, John Goodman, and Cloverfield. We all love the shared universe.
Well, we were like John Goodman, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and another guy.
Dude, the other guy was also in it.
From the newsroom.
And a guy.
But you're thinking about it the whole time you're thinking about it, you're like, well, it's called fucking 10 Cloverfield Lane. So there kind of has to be something going on, but you're like, so maybe he is right, but the way things were going, you're like, no, he's not a good guy. And then it's like, yes, but like it was kind of inevitable, right? Because you're like, why else would it be tied in with this?
Right.
Well, and I don't know how much you guys know, but very quickly with the whole Cloverfield, like they bought this picture. This movie was just going to be like a basement. We don't know what's going on upstairs kind of thriller. And J.J. Abrams and crew, Bad Robot, bought this like before it was filmed. You know, that's where John Goodman came in. And they also almost did this with Overlord, but they didn't end up getting the rights where Overlord just was a straight.
I remember hearing that rumor about Overlord.
Yeah. Now, I think I could be completely off base, but did they try talking to A Quiet Place too about maybe
the original script? John Krasinski created it once he wanted to, because he was just writing a movie, and that's where J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot was going to take that. He ended up wanting to do it himself. Good move on his part, but that would have been a Cloverfield. And the monsters,
the Cloverfield universe.
Well, I guess A Quiet Place came out, I think, from the internet or one of those like script writing.
Reddit,
I don't know if it was a contest or whatever, but people were basically bidding on the script.
Oh, all right. Number 25 comes in with Cabin in the Woods.
Top half.
This is one
this is right where it needs to be. I think
everybody voted for this, but Rossi. You guys recently did a podcast on it. I know Billy D loved it.
I love the movie. Again,
Yeah.
This is one. If I changed my votes, if I changed my votes once I saw your guys' votes, I would have done it. But I tried to just make my list before you guys sent it.
If I was able to make my list after I saw your list, it would have looked just like your list, guys.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I could have been skewed. I decided I made a mistake. I missed.
If I saw all four of your lists, my list would have looked the exact same as my list that I originally put out there because I'm not swayed by anybody. But
you know what I mean.
Cabin in the Woods is good. Yeah.
It's Drew Goddard, who is he's a big Whedon guy. So he wrote, I know this because of who I'm married to, but he was a big he wrote a lot of Buffy episodes. He wrote a lot of Angel. He's Joss Whedon's kind of guy. And so he wound up doing Daredevil. He wound up doing a bunch of other stuff. But Cabin in the Woods was kind of like his first jump into feature films. And just a really clever idea that was realized very, very well. So the idea that like all these horror movies come from somewhere and it's to appease these gods. And that's kind of like the payoff at the end. Such a great idea.
Yeah.
That it's like a roll of the dice is like what you get. And the fact that was like Bradley Whitfield wanted the fucking mermaids all the time
so badly, and the mermaid kills him at the end.
The mermaid gets him in the end. I was wondering if they're going to pay that off because he was so pissed about the merman or mermaid people
Merman,
not happening.
merman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
And this
merman
is almost-
fucking gets them in the end.
This is almost two different movies too, where the first half
absolutely.
is a great spoof of slasher movies, and then once you get into the like the monster closets, it's just batshit crazy, and that might be one of the funnest hours of movies ever.
Oh yeah,
And
now
yeah.
I got to ask the group. So if this were a real thing and we were in that underground bunker, would you feel comfortable betting on it?
Oh.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I would do it.
Fuck yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
betting
if
on it.
that's my
guess
job,
so.
I mean, I guess I would.
If everyone's doing it.
I kind of have to. I would.
See,
If
Matt,
I'm
you
middle
know.
Stop action
management
on the side. Yeah.
If I'm middle management working a fucking locker closet, yeah, I'm gonna try and get my jolly somewhere, Dave.
Yeah, I'm doing whatever I can. Yeah, that's true. And this is one where I'm definitely kind of a bit fraudulent because there are certain movies that are probably even less comedy than this that I'm like, it's a comedy. I'm not voting for it. Whereas this one I did vote for, but I think it's maybe more horror. I don't know.
It's more horror to me than it is.
That's a tricky line. Also debatable is number 24 on our list, and that is the movie Seven with Brad Pitt. And I think most people would not consider this horror at first glance because you're like, hey, Brad Pitt's not in a horror movie. Actually, maybe Interview with the Vampire. But anyway, you're like, not a horror movie. But the more you think about it, and the John Doe, Kevin Spacey character, and what he does to each victim that you see, that is a horror movie.
Right off the bat, too, with the gluttony, like right off the bat, you're just like, holy shit. And then Sloth, the Sloth scene with the guy who's like lying in bed, he's got the air, like that scared. If that didn't scare the shit out of you, you're a liar. If you say it didn't, you're a liar.
And then another one of the great endings of all time, and it's been kind of spoofed and everything else, but the first time you saw it, it was pretty shocking, and like that's horrifying. He cut a woman's head off in a box, and their husband found it. That's a horror movie.
The movie has some of the scariest visuals and stills.
Yeah.
But I do look at it as more as just being a suspense thriller, cop, figure out who did what. Obviously, you have John Doe at the end, and I think that watching Silence of the Lambs just before handing in my list hurt Silence of the Lambs and Seven because it just made me realize how much of a non-horror movie both of them are.
Yeah, this one was a tough one for me because the movie's obviously fantastic. But you just see the aftermath of everything, really. You don't really see the gruesome stuff take place. So I had a hard time ranking this. I think if you evaluate it as a movie itself, it should be way higher, but it's just not that scary. So I think that's why I ended up here.
I had it real high. Mac had it pretty high. Davey had it kind of in the middle. Goo had it on the very low end, and Rossi did not rank it. Is that because you don't consider it a horror movie, or do you not like it?
No, I love the movie. I just never thought of it as a horror movie.
Fine. Yep. Understandable.
I
get in arguments. It's funny. Both. I was talking to my wife about it, and like all of the
my wife. It's
all
back, by the way.
It's back for at least another 10 years. All of the like thriller ones, she's like aren't horror, and then I'm like, well, why aren't they? Like they're horrifying, and there's like serial killers.
Yeah,
and some people, and actually Jermaine Wiggins is another one. I was going like he doesn't even think Saw is a horror movie, and I'm like, dude, Saw's a horror movie, man.
Get
like,
out of town.
Wiggy's nuts. But
what does he think a horror movie is?
To me, thriller and suspense are just subgenres of horror. I think many things can be horrifying, and suspenseful stuff that's thrilling are just subgenres of horror.
Because, like, and again, all right, maybe you're not like scared of everything. This is what I was trying to explain to him. I'm like, it doesn't need to be a like unkillable monster to be a horror movie. Like, it just doesn't be. And anyway, coming in at number 3 is one that I think we would all assume is absolutely a horror. And that would be The Ring. This is also the first movie on our list that was unanimous. All 5 of us had this on the list. And this one, I remember seeing in the theater. And anytime your phone rang after that, you would even if you had even if you saw who was calling, it was still scary for like 6 months.
Again, doesn't age well because not very scary anymore. No. Because obviously there are no VHS tapes.
And spoofed so many times too.
But
Scary Movie
one of
3.
the great things about this movie is it finally took advantage of the DVD special features, because one of the special features was you could watch the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, it's faded to black. And then 5 seconds later, they had a phone ring play on the fucking TV. Scared the shit out of me. Like, I was like, I'll just watch it. Like, I'm going to watch it by myself just to see what the whole video. Because remember, they don't show like the whole video. They show like pieces of it.
Right.
So you get to watch the whole thing. And then it fades to black. And then 5 seconds later, the fucking phone rings on the TV.
Would you watch it if somebody was like, when you were in like middle school, high school, back in the day. And there's no like real internet for us. For me, Davey and Rossi, there wasn't. Mac and Goo, there probably was. We had like a little bit, but
there sure was.
If they were like, hey, I know you're still jerking off. If they were like, hey, there's this movie that people watch and then they die after.
No,
we have a copy of it. No fucking way would I watch that.
I'm scared of the internet.
Burning this tape.
No,
get out of my house.
I would say the same thing. Get out of my house.
I know that I wouldn't. I feel like Keefe would watch this. Didn't you watch like Faces of Death and shit?
I watched that.
Well, yeah, we watched some weird stuff.
I feel like you guys would watch it.
Get that out of here too. That's basically The Ring. That was where this movie spun from.
I'm telling you right now, you two would watch it.
Absolutely not.
Well, and I think what this movie does a great job of is it plays on the whole Bloody Mary thing or the Candyman thing. You know, it's a modern take on that.
Yeah, good point.
I will not, and I will refute that, Goo, by what Mac just said. I will not go into a bathroom if the lights are off.
Oh, I'm done. Oh, what?
Man, just turning them on.
That's a good point.
Nope.
Very quickly, this movie, just rewatched it earlier in the week. It's a bad movie. It is not good. And the movie, the unrealisticness of like what the Ring film tape is, like who edited this? Why is there a big ladder?
Right.
It's ridiculous. But again, when I was younger, it was the scary
shit, dude. It was
horrifying.
So scary.
Driving home at night, all that. Freak that.
It was like the top 2 scary movie for me for the longest time. And maybe it's not anymore, but it was when I first saw it. Coming in at number 22, a very realistic scary movie. That'd be The Strangers. Me and Rossi didn't rank it. Davey, Mac, and Goo all had it pretty high. Mac had it in his top 10. Or maybe 11.
I know some of the
Strangers.
critics.
I didn't rank it.
I ranked it. I
know some of the critics think that the movie
I'm looking
is
at
too
the wrong
simple.
list here. It was Goo. Sorry, Mac and Goo and Rossi all had it ranked. Sorry, me and Davey did not.
I know some critics feel like the movie is too simple and too easy, but I think that's what makes it good, and that's what makes it better.
1,000%.
This could happen to any one of us tonight, and that's why this movie
Don't
is
say
so
that,
fucking
man.
good.
No, he's 100%
It's the most realistic movie on the whole list.
Mac, it's 100% that.
Did you see Jaws?
No, get out of here. The scariest part of the entire movie is towards the end when they ask, why are you doing this? And the simple answer, still chilling, I'm going to get a little goosebumps going, because you were home. F you! Get out of here. The movie, the tension, the early part, I know what Goo was talking about the critics. I see like the non-getting married, that stuff it wasn't necessary.
You didn't need some of that. You could have just jumped into it a little bit more. But
you didn't need the backstory because they were
it was very unsettling. I think part of the reason I didn't vote for it is like my wife really didn't like it, but it was more because of how realistic it was. No, it was more because of how realistic it was. And there was a town over from my parents that basically this exact story happened. Like
that.
So why wouldn't you put it on the list then?
Because I have a reason why it's not on my list. Because
I was going to tell you real quick the story.
Yeah.
If you want to hear it, most fucked up thing in the world.
I lived in the same state as you. So
yeah. So this happened to him. I don't know if I'm getting all the details right, but basically it was like 3 like high school age kids went to a house. The father was out of town, killed the mother, and then the daughter that was there like sliced off her fingers, and then she played dead and they left. And so she survived it. And her dad was out of town on work. And it was the fucking most fucked up thing in the world ever.
I'm not having fun anymore.
I watched this movie at the Meredith movie theater in New Hampshire, and my buddy's house was about 10 minutes away. So afterwards, at fucking
in
12
Meredith,
o'clock
so
at
you
night,
were in like the fucking lake.
we were in the middle of the woods,
middle of nowhere.
and his whole first floor of his parents' house, his vacation house, all glass, so you could see in, but you couldn't see out. It spooked the shit out of me the whole night.
Yep, no one like that.
And I think just the simple part is these weren't people that were like trained killers. They were just like doing it for fun and just happened to find these people in this isolated area. It's horrifying. And the second most wasted food, the ice cream that doesn't get finished, is right up there. Macaulay Culkin's mac and cheese.
I also like that you could tell they were kind of new at it. They weren't that good at killing, which was very realistic. And then the one saving grace, you thought Glenn Howerton was going to come in and save the day, and the fucking shotgun went off, and you're like, oh no.
The reason that this isn't on my list is because I ranked a movie that didn't make it. It was like the last movie cut, and that was Funny Games. And Funny Games is actually a better movie than this.
Arguable.
It's arguable. That's why we're here. But I think Funny Games is better than this.
Funny Games is pretty good. I agree with that. This one, the scene where the guy, because it's the guy and the 2 girls that are the invaders, and when the guy with his sack head, which is terrifying, the scene where like there's no music playing and he just pops up in the background,
just
and then
standing in the
walks
back,
away.
and she's like in the kitchen like this.
Yeah. That
fucking
is
terrifying.
That's one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life. I should have had this on this list. I should have had it on there, but I did not. I am.
See, I opted
scared
for
of
Funny Games, which didn't make the top 50.
Yeah, no, that's fine, and that's a good movie too. So let's go to like the opposite at number 21, from the probably the scariest, most realistic to the funniest movie by far on this list. That would be Shaun of the Dead, which again I didn't rank only because I think it's a straight comedy, but I love the movie. Davey, Mac, and Goo all ranked it, and they all ranked it pretty high.
And it's for the same reason, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, this is technically a comedy horror movie, but I think it's so well done. I think it's so clever and so funny, and has that like, it has zombies obviously. So it's obviously like, you know, it's gruesome at times. People are getting killed in, you know, vicious ways. But think of like what complete fucking wastes would do during a zombie apocalypse. Like, and the fact that these people would, these are some of the people who would survive because they're so dumb.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? When they're just like acting like zombies and stuff, like walking through the streets, like that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but it might work. You know?
Yeah. Once I started including all the fringe ones, I knew I was going to include this, and I knew I was going to have her super high because it's probably one of my, I don't know, 15 favorite movies of all time. I fucking love this movie. So I think I had it 11th here, to bumped it down because it's not that scary. But
you know what? Actually,
if it's a movie that could be on this list, and it can, that's why it's on mine, and it's pretty high up there. It's right next to Zombieland.
You know what? Also, movie is kind of has a couple of really scary parts. Surprisingly, is Hot Fuzz, which you wouldn't think would, but there's like a couple of moments
like a cult. Yeah,
like that part. You're like, oh boy. Number 20 on our list is another old school one that would be Rosemary's Baby. Everybody but Mac had this on their list. Mac, have you seen it?
yeah, I think what I'm realizing here is I was a little more on board with the newer stuff and kind of penalized the older stuff, and you guys didn't, which is
and for me,
I get it. Old stuff stinks.
yeah, kind of does.
It's not as good as new stuff, so you don't. For me, it was a movie. I think it was low on my list, and I put it in there because I felt I had to, because it was a movie that's good enough to make this list, but not.
I thought it was
than
so
some of the other
good.
stuff.
And I think Satan needs to be well represented on this list.
He does. He is. He is.
Satan
he gets
is
there.
horror. Like there is no horror without Satan. And this is like this is just a fucked story. And it's also a good movie. Like I had movies like Seven and Rosemary's Baby and Silence of the Lambs, which we're going to get to. I had them super high on my list because I'm like, all right, at one point, not only are they good horror movies, they're just fantastic movies. So I'm going to shoot them up the list, even if they're not as scary as some of the other ones. So
this movie, simply, like when I was a kid and I saw it, because I loved like digging into horror movies. I was like 13.
Yeah.
This was awful. I was boring. I couldn't watch it. It went back 10 years later, gone back in 10 years later. It's a really good watch. And the best, I think the reason this movie would rank, it wouldn't dissipate off, is that you never see anything. It's all vision. It's all the optics of your mind. You don't see the baby.
Things,
yeah, but you don't see the baby. You don't see all the stuff. Where's like that scene where she's looking for a child at the end and all these. That is very scary. It's a slow burn movie, so I totally understand where Mac's coming from. Like, I wouldn't say like, Mac, you should watch that tonight. Like, it's not. If you're in the mood for something like that, it's there. It's a lot of psychological going on, and
it's like you said, it's a lot of like the original Amityville, which was you never saw a thing.
No,
right?
You know, nothing ever happened in that, and that's obviously why that movie didn't make the list. But it has a lot of those elements to it, where it's just a lot of, like I said before, implied stuff.
Yeah,
where it works for these types of movies, but it wouldn't work today. If that
Probably
is the new Amityville on the list?
No.
It is not.
Which one?
Ryan Reynolds one?
Which one?
Yeah, the Ryan Reynolds one.
Just missed.
New stuff is better.
New is always better. Coming in at number 19, another unanimous movie that would be 28 Days Later, which we all had ranked just about the same, like right around 25, like right smack in the middle. It's fast zombies.
I was gonna say, what's better than zombies? Fast zombies.
That's it.
I don't think you can do a zombie movie better than this. This is about the top.
Agreed.
I don't love zombies, but
this
is where I think the best zombie movie should rank. I don't think it should be too much higher than this.
Nope.
Like, what if there was like zombies? Zombies are not as scary to me historically because they're so fucking slow, right? Because they're like just a herd of slow. But what if they just were a fucking dead sprint? If they
what
were
if you got a guy running 4-2
as a zombie, just like running after you?
Now
like,
they're scary.
That's fucking horrifying.
Yeah. Now
horrifying.
they're scary.
Yeah.
By the way, every movie remaining is unanimous with the exception of The Thing, and that's because Max said that he forgot about it. So
Okay.
coming in at number 18 is also one of the movies that came out within the last decade. That would be The Conjuring. I just rewatched that recently. That movie was in my top 10. I think it is terrifying. The old haunted house. There is a sprinkle of based on a true story element to it as well. And it launched the Conjuring verse, which I like. I at least like all of the movies, and I love this one.
I can tell an awesome story about. I saw this movie in the theater with my wife.
Samesies.
And she got the entire theater to laugh at one point because there was a scene. No, there was a scene. I'm not kidding. I'm gonna do. This is exactly what she did. So there was a scene. I forget which one it was, but they were building all of this tension to this scene, and the whole theater's quiet. And she goes, this loud. She goes, "Oh fuck." Like it's like that loud, and everyone just started dying laughing. Like she couldn't hold it. She, oh fuck!
The Hindenburg was crashing, and I just yelled, "That's gotta hurt!"
But not a fucking peep in the theater. All of a sudden, you're oh fuck! Like super loud.
I bet people appreciated that, but yeah, I think The Conjuring. This is like the best. Like I like Amityville Horror, the original. This like took it to the next level. And to go with Mac, it's new, but it did a really good job. I think after this, Conjuring 2 is good, but I think after all the other, Annabelle is trash. The Nun. Are you joking me with the Nun? One of the worst movies.
Yeah, the Nun, Conjuring 2 not great. Annabelle and Annabelle 2 are both surprisingly pretty good. Annabelle, like the other, like the prequel kind of thing, it was not bad.
Annabelle Comes Home or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah. The Nun was not good, but then
what about La Llorona? Did you see that one?
No, I have not.
La Llorona? I haven't seen that one either.
I'll check that out. I'm in on that.
I think I brought it up.
Coming in at number 17 is The Silence of the Lambs, another movie that gets debated on whether or not it is a horror movie. Me, Mac, and Rossi all had it ranked really, really high. Davey and Goo ranked it, but ranked it low. So I assume you guys are going on the it's not
didn't
super
think it was
horror.
Not a horror movie. Yeah.
I created my list, and I think I had this maybe top 10 based off of it being just an all-time movie.
We both had it ninth before we rewatched it.
And then I rewatched it, and I'm like, wait a second. This isn't a horror movie.
It like solidified its ranking for me after I watched it. So apparently we watched a different movie.
You told me if a movie has one scare in it, it's now a horror movie. So Matt would also like to put Pee-wee's Big Adventure here.
Go ahead.
He would like to put Return to Oz here.
I'm fine
he would
with
like
that.
to put The Brave Little Toaster here.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
Throw it in there.
Put
All
Willy
fucking
Wonka,
horrible
put Wizard
movie.
of Oz. Put
Yeah,
them all
Willy
in
Wonka
there.
scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Toy Story 3. That's scary.
Go ahead.
Well, first of
Again,
all,
Max started on Toy Story 3, but
well, that scene where they're all going to melt, I was
They
terrified.
should have melted.
Yeah, they should have. That was some magic.
Dude, I have no problem with that. Because I just with the people who don't think it's a horror movie, I'm like, all of the Buffalo Bill scenes. What are those?
Yeah,
How would you
The whole
describe
basement
Buffalo
down
Bill?
a well.
Like,
And the night vision scene for sure. But
Is Mindhunter a horror show?
yeah, I think so.
yeah, but
I think there are elements
when
of the
they're
show
in
that
the
would scare
basement with the
people.
night vision, when he raises his hand, you can see his shadow.
Okay,
there
here we go with
wouldn't
the
be a
shadow.
shadow. There
I
wouldn't be
don't
a
care.
shadow if it was dark.
I don't care. No, but
The,
Dave,
Movie
going back-
magic's
5
gone.
minutes of her in the basement, you could argue is the most tense 5 minutes in any film
Yeah.
ever.
It's tense, but again, the most horrific character in the movie is only in the movie for like
That's fair.
10 minutes.
That's fair. Yep.
But Davey, I would also say,
of
going back
faith.
to your Mindhunter question, that one to me still is in the horror realm because all you're doing is interviewing serial killers. But this movie's different because yes, you're interviewing Hannibal Lecter, but you also see him in action and you see Buffalo Bill in action. Whereas Mindhunter, you're really just talking to
After the fact.
fucking Chicago
Also,
nurse killer and
To
everything
correct
else.
Davey once again, the most horrifying character is only in the movie for like 1 minute. Miggs is killed immediately.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Miggs.
What did Mick say to you? What did Mick say?
He said,
Also,
my buddy the fridge does the best. When Jodie Foster says what she says, I'm not gonna because we don't work blue like Mac and Goo. He said, "Show me, I can smell your." He does the fucking best impression of
What
it.
the
It's
fuck did Mick
unbelievable.
say?
this movie also has one of the best oh shit moments of all time when the police are getting ready to storm the house and he opens the door and it's Clarice and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So good.
Hey, ready? Wait. Wasn't she a great big fat person?
Size 14.
You both
Which-
size 14.
So I pointed
James
this out
Gum?
on our podcast
James
too.
Gum. Yeah.
That he says that he knew she was a big fat person from the newspapers. So what he's claiming is that in the newspapers,
Hey, that's what they
woman
call-
taken, big fat person.
Huge fat person. Great big fat person.
Can't run away.
Person? Yeah.
Can't run fast.
You better size 14.
man. Are you a James Gum? Great stuff. Coming in at number 16 on our list, 1999's The Blair Witch Project.
Another fucking great story about this movie. If we're doing anecdotes, I'm sorry.
No, you've told this one on the
I
podcast before. You've
Love
told
this
it.
one. And the story is when my buddy was hiding from my brother's girlfriend in the corner. I had a finished basement, and we went to the corner. Yeah. And he scared. I jumped out and scared her. She pissed her pants.
Yes.
I'm telling it again. I love that story.
All right.
These guys haven't heard that story, have they?
Yes, they have.
I've listened to your podcast.
They listen.
Heard the podcast.
They subscribe. They rate, review. They're great. These guys are great.
Made me motion sick, but still scared the shit out of me.
Best
So
you can
I
do
like
both.
this movie. It's not the scariest movie in the world. I respect it for the viral campaign.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to watch this movie when it came out. 99?
Mhm.
I was 10 years old, and in order to watch this movie, my dad said, "Okay, if you can watch this other movie, you'll be able to watch this." He showed me Friday the 13th. So within 1 week, at 10 years old, I watched Friday the 13th and the Blair Witch Project.
Your dad said, if you want to
He
smoke
said
that
the only
cigar,
movie-
you
he
have
said
to
the
smoke
only
this
movie that he
entire
saw-
pack of cigarettes.
He said the only movie that he saw that was scarier than Blair Witch was Friday the 13th. So he made me watch that, and I have it higher than Blair Witch on my list. Both scared the ever living shit out of me.
I went anti-Keefe on this one. I remember hearing the viral campaign. I think I saw this in once it was on VHS, so it had to be 2000. And I made sure it was midnight, pitch black in my bedroom at the time. It was a VHS, or it might have been. No, it had to be a VHS. And I was terrified. And every time I watch it, that immediately comes back to me. But then I've watched it. I've done let me just see what this is like not watching it. And it's a pretty.
I'm all set with camping because of this movie. How about that?
Camping's out.
Go with camping.
One last thing. Do you guys know the theory about this movie? Have you heard the non-witch theory?
No.
I probably have, but go ahead.
Okay, so it's the two guys that are with the girl that are filming. They murder her. That is the story. If you watch it with that perspective, it makes sense because I did this about a week ago.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's a theory that the two gentlemen.
So in the basement scene, she's screaming because she realizes it's.
Oh no,
Yeah.
the gentleman in front of her is just hiding in a corner behind her, whacked in the back of the old dome ski.
Interesting.
and
I
dead.
like a good movie conspiracy. I like that one.
Also, the Bear Witch Project, one of the worst softcores on Skinamax. So
They didn't even show any pennies. Not even full penny.
Coming in at number 15 is Candyman, 1992's Candyman. We did a brief standalone episode last year with my wife. It's one of her favorite horror movies of all time. This one's legit scary also.
Legitimately, I'm 39 years old, and I will not go into a bathroom with the lights off.
Nope.
I won't.
No reason to.
Also, a lot of social commentary in this movie as well. And I want to see the remake. I'm actually intrigued on how they're going to do that.
Same thing.
I believe it's going to be a sequel. I'm pretty sure.
I think they're doing what
20
Halloween
years
did.
after.
I think what Halloween did, where they get rid of all the other ones, so because there was a bunch of Candyman sequels, they're going to dismiss those.
They stink.
They are bad.
Based off of the first one, so that'd be pretty good. Coming in at number 14, one of my favorite movies, that'd be Saw.
This isn't a horror movie.
Says Jermaine Wiggins. Me and Rossi both had it in our top 10. All of you other guys had it ranked, but not as high. I fucking love this movie. And when it first came out, it actually got a lot of negative reviews, and a lot of people said it was trying to be like a 7 ripoff, which to me is not true. It's not right, but a lot of these like hoity-toity movie critics said that's what they were trying to do. They weren't. Very simple, but a big reveal. Yeah, the acting's not great, whatever. They made it for $1 million. And the other thing that gets criticized for is like, oh, like the story isn't good. Actually, the story is pretty good. I like the story. You don't care about the characters. Like, yeah, you do. Like, they're flawed. Yeah. And like the way they tell the story, I like it, and it's simple. And it led to what, in my mind, was a pretty good franchise. I looked forward to each movie each year, and sure, they got worse, but I thought they were good, and they kind of hold up like a Saw 5 or 6 compared to a Nightmare on Elm Street 5 or 6, or Friday the 13th 5 or 6, or Halloween 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Saw's much better, dude. Much better.
Well,
they lose their direction after like 3. I like the first 3, and then they're sort of rudderless.
The traps get a little too elaborate for me. Like it's like a game of like shitty
It's
mousetrap.
like Mousetrap. Yeah, it's like Mousetrap.
You're like mouse.
But you lose your arm.
Right.
We're gonna roll this marble, and the basket's gonna fall right on top of you.
And like when I first saw I loved it. I really did.
So,
I thought it was, again, at the time, like I think we talked about when we did this on the pod. We talked about it last time. There weren't a lot of good horror movies coming out, and then this
came out in 04.
Yeah, and there wasn't a lot of good horror. So this came kind of like out of nowhere. Perfect. Like horror was kind of like done.
And the idea of
this movie as well with the pig mask is one of the only masks in horror history that actually gave me a nightmare.
Yeah.
I also like the idea of there being like a puppet master who's not actually doing the killings.
Yes. See, I like that. They have also, it has everything you want. It has a tagline. It has like an image, the doll there, Jigsaw. It has a lot of different things. And just when you said about the story, like the whole Michael Emerson character who has the family, the daughter, and the wife, like there's so many things going on in this movie that people just think of it as like, oh, someone's cutting off their foot. It's like, no, that's actually the smallest part of the entire script and everything. It's a good movie.
I think a problem that happened was because, as Davey mentioned, Hostel before, they came out around the same time. And they're like, oh, it's torture porn. And you're like, well, that's kind of what Hostel is, but Saw, there is more of a story, and there's like a big reveal. Like the ending is like a twist ending. There's no twist in Hostel. Like there's a huge twist in Saw, and there's the scene. Yeah, like the abduction scenes and the flashbacks are scary with the pig mask. The scene in which he's kidnapping the daughter and the wife, and he comes out of the closet is fucking terrifying, and just the idea of being like chained to a pipe in like a basement where you don't know where it is, and there's a saw in front of you. So I was like, what are you gonna do? You gonna saw out of there, or like what's your plan? Like I fucking love that movie. It's great. Coming in at number 13, kind of fittingly, is Friday the 13th.
Which, Goo, you're gonna need to explain yourself here.
Yeah, this is weird. So Davey and Mac both had it in their top 4.
Top 5, yeah.
Top 5. Rossi had it in his top 10. I had it lower, but in my top, I would say 40. I'm doing the like reverse math here. Goo had it ranked 48th.
I don't like it that much. I don't think it's that good.
Okay.
I think it's overrated.
I don't think you can say that and then
I think
love
it's overrated.
Sleepaway Camp.
I can love Sleepaway Camp all I want. I think Sleepaway Camp is a better movie. But I would say that this movie started a very bad trend in horror.
Not its fault.
That's not its fault, but
so you're gonna bump it down because of that?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, this is
you could say Halloween started it,
the perfect slasher movie.
No, but Halloween was subtle. This movie, I mean, obviously.
But that's subtle, but it's also not gruesome like what the series becomes, because everything is done in the shadows. You never you see the killings, but you never see the killer, and there's a whole mystery around it. Whereas in the other movies, you know who the killer is. Even Halloween, you know who the killer is. You don't know who the killer is in this movie.
I do like the POV mystery. The POV killer scenes too. I think that was a big nice
POV guy.
I am.
Nothing wrong with that.
Get a nice pair of Oculus, and you're all set.
And also, I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of more afraid of an old woman swinging a machete than fucking Jason Voorhees.
I'll be honest, that's what scares me about this movie.
The end of final scene on the beach, she's downright deranged.
Invasion, young people,
and your friend's mother killing you. Like that scared me. I'm sorry, that was terrifying at the end. And then when she does the Jason voice, the killer mommy, like I'm sorry, that still gets me a little bit when that plays on TV.
When we play the Friday the 13th game, when we've played that on PS4, it's actually scarier to be Jason because you're all by yourself in this little hut and the mom is talking to you.
Yeah.
It's scarier. I'd rather be a counselor.
And it's so dark, you don't know where to go.
Oh, in my settings, I can't see shit. I'm bumping into the walls. I can't move. All right. Coming in at number 12. This is the one that we already said that it was an oversight on Mac's part, but that would be The Thing. And this is one where I probably saw like kind of later after all the classics that I had seen, and I was blown away by how good this was.
Fucking rules, man.
This movie's so good. And I recommend it to everybody, and it kind of blows them away. Goo, you had it ranked super high. You had it ranked in your top 4. Me and Davey both had it in our top 10.
This would have been going through my list here. I probably would have had it 13th or 14th, which would have bumped this up to like I think 9th overall. Just
here's what makes The Thing so scary is that it can be anything.
Anything. It can be fucking anything.
By the way, I just want to note this is a good time that Goose sent me like 15 lists, so I had to do a lot of massaging to make sure I had to do a lot of whatever that word was you just said. I can't say it now.
Gymnastics.
Mathmastics,
I hate
because there was so many. But then I will give Goo credit. He eventually said the third one was like this one. Do not forget the rest.
I thought Goo was fucking around when he kept saying, he's like, no, use this one, Rossi. No, use this one. I'm like, is he serious?
Wasn't.
No, so I sent him one, and then I watched Silence of the Lambs, and I'm like, I need to fix this. I can't have Silence of the Lambs at number 9.
So I kind of wish Mac did rank The Thing, because I have a problem, and I think this deserves to be in the top 10 more
I agree.
than another movie that is 10th. But let's just keep moving. The Thing is great. Everybody watch The Thing. Coming in at number 11 is a movie that I like, but we will give Davey the floor here because Evil Dead 2 was his number 1 horror movie.
This is my favorite horror movie of all time. And I love the backstory behind it. I love that it's just basically Evil Dead with more of a budget. It's the exact same plot, the exact same movie. Just like, let's do it again, but this time let's have just a fraction of a bit more of a budget. There are some legitimately scary parts of this movie. I really do believe that. When like the deer head is like laughing at him when the girl comes up out of the floor, like Dead by Dawn, like that's some scary ass shit. But it's also, it's like super visceral, super gory. I love the camera when the thing's coming like through the woods and it's like chasing him. And my favorite scene in this movie is when Bruce Campbell, Ash, is cutting off his own hand, screaming, "Who's laughing now?"
Oh my God. Awesome.
Like it's genius. I mean, this movie from the way it's shot to all the practical effects that Sam Raimi feel that we all know, that even if you watch Superman, like those fast zooms, like the way the camera moves, the way he manipulates the camera, it's just a fucking perfect 80s B horror movie. Mm-hmm. It's perfect. This is when we're talking about top 50 horror movies and we talk about rewatchability, this is something I will, and Rich is a witness to this. If you know me and you haven't seen this movie, we're fucking watching this movie. I'm going to make you watch this movie and I'm going to talk to you about it the entire time. Because the soundtrack is fucking great. The visuals are great. This is Bruce Campbell, peak Bruce Campbell. This is the first movie you get the chainsaw hand. Mm-hmm. This movie's fucking incredible. And like, it's my number 1 and my favorite horror movie.
We did a standalone. Me and Davey talked about it. We did a Dork short last year. You can check the archives on Evil Dead 2. Coming in at number 10 is a movie that I like, but I do not love. And I feel like The Thing would have been a better representation of the top 10 than this. And that would be Get Out, which is another movie where I know some people argue if it's a horror. Clearly, all 4 of us thought it was. We all had it ranked pretty high. I had it the lowest. Davey had it the highest. And then the other 3 guys all had it about the same. I think it's good. I'll be honest, I think it started to get a little overrated. And it's sort of like a Stepford Wives knockoff.
So I think it was.
I think that's a little minimalizing.
I sort of was going down that path, and I literally just rewatched it a week ago. Okay, that movie is fucking fantastic.
Yeah. I think it was overhyped.
I want to bump it up a couple on mine, but I agree with your point about The Thing probably should be in here ahead of it. But I had it at 15th, and I'd probably want to bump it up a couple spots.
Okay.
I think it was overhyped at first, and then upon rewatching it 10 or 15 times, because whenever it's on, I end up watching it, and it gets better every single time.
It does.
Yeah, it was on right before we started recording, by the way. But
did you watch it? Yeah.
No, well, that was in between. I have like 18 podcasts today. But with that being said, I think the reason this movie is so good is that it is terrifying, the idea of somebody wanting your body. Like, I'm sorry, like they want to take your mind. You
didn't grow up with this one right here, then, did you?
Well, listen, watch out. I'm coming for you. I want that. But no, honestly, it's one of those things. I think that's what made it scary. Once you figure out what this movie's about, like, it's kind of confused. You don't know if it's like a total race issue. Where are we going with this movie? And there's so many twists and turns that get us there.
The stuff with the maid and the groundskeeper, you find out it's the grandparents, and then the final half an hour, 45 minutes is pretty much straight horror.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. True.
Do you guys know the alternate ending to this that they?
Yeah, I don't like it.
He dies, right?
So
he gets taken in by the
cop car that pulls up at the end ends up being Lil Rel Howery. In the alternate ending, it's actual cops, and they arrest him because he's the black man, and she cries wolf, basically.
And there's all dead people, white dead people around.
Yeah.
That probably would have been, unfortunately, the more realistic ending.
Yeah.
However, I remember watching it at the time and like wondering if they were going to go that direction, and I was happy that they didn't, because I would have been just so fucking mad. But
it would have
also
been very annoying.
Because we're the TS motherfucking A. Oh, what an ending! What an ending!
He's the best part of that movie. He is
great.
All right, number 9.
The worst part of the movie is the opening scene in the sound mixing on Gambino, where it slams you in the face.
Yeah,
and it's so much louder than the rest of the movie.
Okay, sound guy.
No, so it's actually great because it reminds me of again, I'm going to bring back Funny Games. Have you guys seen the original Funny Games? When they're driving, it's like this nice suburban family, and they're like, oh, they like singing a song and like let's put on something else, and it's like this hardcore fucking punk music. And from that point, you're like, what the fuck is happening? It's like the most unsettling thing, and they're just driving in this Range Rover, like smiling as this like hardcore punk music is playing.
Was it Cannibal Corpse?
Like it was punk. It was more punk, but kind of like that. Yeah.
It was the band from Green Room. It's a shared universe, basically. Yeah.
Was it Sum 41?
No. Yes, it was Sum 41. No, it was good, Charlotte. Coming in at number 9, Alien. Alien, definitely a horror movie. People are like, definitely a horror sci-fi. Movie. It's like, nah, it can be both.
No, this is a horror movie. Aliens is not.
Aliens is action.
Complete action.
All action.
I don't think there's any scary scenes in Aliens.
Aliens?
No. Yeah, in Aliens. An alien, you're sort of scared the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Space. Scary.
You're on the edge of your seat going down those long hallways and these long, drawn-out shots, and you're waiting for something to jump out, and nothing does.
Yeah.
And then when you finally do have it, you're like, holy shit. Like, what the fuck is this?
Scary.
Also, I watched this during 2020. There's a lot of talk about quarantine. Let him in, don't let him in, and then that guy just let him in. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's gonna lead to good things. They let him in.
Relevant than ever.
Yeah, and next thing you know, S hits the fan.
Also, guys, chest burster.
Chest burster.
Oh.
Boom.
Horrifying.
I hear you. Number 8 on this list is A Nightmare on Elm Street. Rossi had this in his top 5. Davey had it in his top 10. I think I had it 10th or 11th. So.
Classic. And I think as a kid, so would this come out 86, 87?
84.
Really? Okay. So, again, a movie where like if you're a kid and you're sneaking out and you're trying to watch this movie and you're like under the age of 10, which is when I saw this movie, and it's like you're afraid to fall asleep.
Yeah.
Like that's fucking scary. Like
that's what's so good about so many of these movies is they give you a reason. Like we talk about Blair Witch, you don't want to go camping, right? We're gonna get to Jaws soon. Like you don't want to go swimming. Like there's certain ones like Aliens. Kind of like I can avoid aliens. I think maybe not. I'm not gonna go to space. If they come here, I'm fucked. But I'm not gonna go chase aliens. But
they're among us, Keefe.
Not being able to sleep. Like come on, that's half our.
And
day.
Again, this is a movie. This is a movie franchise that very much lost its way and started getting more towards like slappy, kind of weird. But you could have taken this in now. If you were to make this movie now, I believe it would go in a much darker direction.
The remake is pretty good, Davey. You're right.
No. I'm not.
They tried.
They tried though. They tried making it darker, but it was just stupid. Awful. But like, yeah, Freddy doesn't have all the one-liners in the first one. He has a little bit of personality just to separate him from Jason and Michael Myers, obviously, because they don't even talk. But he's not like the guy like, come here, bitch. Like he's not doing all that stuff.
He's not popping on sunglasses.
The only thing I'll say, I think I had this lowest out of everyone, is they rely a little too much on the gore. There's a lot of blood, especially in one scene. I think that's why I prefer Friday the 13th when it comes down to slashers.
Can you name
a little more nuanced?
But can you name a better paranormal slasher than this?
No, I'm not upset with it being 8. I'm just saying I prefer Friday the 13th because it relies a little less on.
Because this might be the most creative of all the movies.
So I think of, and this came from an article of like kids dying in their sleep because of like sleep paralysis, and like that's a real thing. Like that's a real thing. Mm-hmm. Believe me, it's a real thing. And
here we go.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to get into it, but I know it is. And like I remember being just like scared to go to bed. Like and like and you watch the teenagers in the movie and they're like sitting in class and they're like trying to keep themselves awake. Like I remember kind of doing that. Like it's fucked.
I also think it's better than Friday the 13th for me because I think Heather Langenkamp's character Nancy is like, boom, like here's a girl you're rooting for, and there's the main character. Where all the Friday movies, like it's kind of come and go, and it doesn't really matter as much. Whereas like she's good, And Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is garbage. 3 is actually good, and Heather
Not
Langenkamp
bad,
comes back. 3 is really good.
Yeah.
4 and 5 or whatever I think are garbage, and then
4
New
is like the Dream Warrior.
Yeah.
The Dream Warriors. Yeah.
No, Dream Warriors is 3, and then 4 is the other Dream one, where it flips again.
Dream Child or something. It's
There's like Dream Master or Dream War, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But New Nightmare is great.
Good movie.
Yeah,
I did
great
like
one.
New Nightmare.
New Nightmare in '94 came out, and even Freddy vs. Jason I liked. But yeah, so that one's coming in there. At number 7 on our list, we're going old school. We're going Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho. This one's good. Like, this is one of the original. Well, I should say one of the original.
Probably the hardest one to rank, right? At least for me.
It was tricky, and we all ended up having it very similar. We all had it like in our top 15. Mac had it a little bit higher than that, but just Norman Bates. Oh, and this is another thing I forgot to mention about Silence of the Lambs and why I think it's a horror movie is when you just think of like horror villain icons, Hannibal Lecter is one of them. Norman Bates is one of them. And there's some legit scary scenes. Like the shower scene is obviously memorable. And oh, here's an example of now you're scared to take a shower, which, you know what I mean? Like it just added to the list of things. But the whole idea of Norman Bates and then pretending to be his mother, like those scenes, like when you realize it's him, are so scary.
When she finally goes up to when they finally go up to the house there, it's like, that's terrifying. Terrifying.
I think the very first panic attack I ever had in my life was when I went to the Universal Studios tour and saw the actual fucking house.
Oof.
Oh yeah, because
like when you come around the corner on like the little trolley,
yeah.
you're like,
wow.
and you like actually see the house on the hill. Scared. There's more than Jaws.
Yeah.
And they have the mother, we'll say, in the window and everything.
In the window, yeah.
I've got me as well. And this is a movie I saw when I was real little, so I didn't really know what was going on at the end when he's like wearing a dress and a wig. I'm like, what is this? Then when I went back to it, you're right. Watching that movie, knowing the ending, like a Sixth Sense in a sense, makes it 10 times more horrifying.
Yeah.
And then also, this is the first movie to show a bra, and then also a flushing toilet.
Hey, like that.
Got that wrong at a Mac and Goo trivia one time.
Both are pretty risque.
Also, so this is the movie that set the rules for horror movies moving forward. You have a woman who, little risque, little afternoon delight, and then she's chopped to pieces.
It's what happens in life.
Virginity lives. You have sex, you die.
Correct. Pretty
Well,
simple.
I think this was sort of proof of concept for horror movies, right? You could make a good movie and have it not just be for total gore or total, sex. It's a great, great horror movie.
Wait, you said Psycho 1999, right?
Yeah. Vince
That's
Vaughn.
what I've been talking about.
Vince Vaughn was great.
By the way, Vince Vaughn is back. Do you guys see the trailer for Freaky?
Oh, yeah. I'm in on Freaky.
I'm in on Freaky.
Let's go. Absolutely. Yeah. Number 6 on our list is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. One of the first, straight B movies I think I ever saw in my life. And this one's gross. Like, this is
disgusting.
Out of the whole list, this is definitely the number one movie that you couldn't, eat a sandwich while you watch this movie.
Might be the least rewatchable one on the list, other than Audition, I guess.
Yeah, those would be the two that I don't want to watch again. And I also own it for some reason. I own Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Not very rewatchable, and yet I own it.
This movie looks like a home video.
Mm-hmm.
This movie looks so real. And if you had told me that, they actually did kill someone by accident and then they used the footage, I'd be like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I fucking saw it.
Yeah, the dude's leg at the end, that looks real to me. Like when he gets the guy's leg, just that little opening, it's like, is that real? Is that not?
And then you have him slamming him in the head, and every single shot looks so grainy, and it looks like someone smeared Vaseline on the camera, and it just looks so gross.
Sweating.
Well, yeah, because I was listening to Toby Hooper talk about, I was reading up on an interview Toby Hooper did. So they did this in the summer in Texas, and it was 110 degrees in the house. So everyone's fucking sweating. Everyone's going the camera's fogging up because it's just so humid and shitty in the house. And so and I remember reading the house stunk because it was so hot. So is that real? And I use the word, I've used it before, but that visceral, this is real. What you're watching is a real thing.
Dude, this is your number
one.
This is your number 2 movie.
Yeah. And that's why, because it was just
No, I'm saying Goo's number 2. Davey,
this is my number 2.
This was your 7, I think.
But it was top 10. I mean,
this movie's horrifying.
Oh yeah. No, it is. I didn't hate the remake. I'll be honest. Jessica Biel didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it.
I liked it.
Too clean. But obviously, like the other one is like Goose said, so dirty. It's just like
100%. Number 5 on our list is Jaws.
This more so than Psycho, because I actually love Psycho, seems to be sort of a legacy pick almost, because this movie isn't scary at all. Not at all. But my dad telling me that in the 70s, no one would go in the fucking ocean for 2 summers because of this movie.
Correct.
All right. That obviously scared a whole generation of people. So
yes,
especially in
Well,
Massachusetts.
what that proves to me is that people are stupid. People back then were dumb.
Sure. But like, I didn't see this movie until maybe 2003, and I wasn't scared of it at all.
Well, the thing, I don't know. The thing that gets me, I remember like all these movies that come out, like Anaconda, we'll just use that. Like that's what they were trying to replicate. Like nobody's been able to replicate that. Like you go in the water, you don't know what's going to happen. You swim out, you're that guy. Like I'm going to go over my head. You don't know what's under there.
Here comes another one. Nothing terrifies me more than water. Here it comes.
I'll be honest. Nothing scarier than when you don't know what's below you.
Old people and young people swimming.
Okay, old people, young people, babies, caves, and water.
And the
water that's like 7 feet or lower though, Davey. Not just water. You got to be able. You can't touch the ground.
Yeah,
also, scarier than nothing.
Are we just rattling off Jaws ripoffs now, Rossi?
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying that
Deep Blue
Sea can go there.
Orca, the killer whale.
Have you seen
Shark?
Piranha.
A fucking shark ate me.
Yeah, but I'm being honest with you. With the thing with Jaws, and I disagree with Mac, it is scary to me. Like when they're out there on the boat, and there's that scene where he's just throwing out some chum, smoking a cig, and that shark just comes up unannounced.
It definitely has moments.
I don't think seeing Jaws is scary at all. I think it's all the mystery of what Jaws is leading up to that is scary.
Agreed, but I think that one scene where because every other time it's teased, that one time he just pops up like a motherfucker and doesn't give two shits.
Yeah. There's also what's underneath there? Is there a sharktopus?
There's a good jump scare too when they are looking for Jaws. They end up finding his tooth and they're underwater, and then the dead body his head pops through the little hole there.
Yeah.
Good point.
That's scary. So that's really our top like creature feature, you know, like of all the ones on here.
Well, I have a question for you. Should we have had Jurassic Park on here?
Nope.
I say no on that.
Because Jurassic Park, pretty much not modern day. We're not living in the 90s anymore, sadly. But it's pretty much a modern day Jaws.
So I thought about that after I sent it in the list, and because of my parameters, I should have had it on the list because that kitchen scene is scary.
The kitchen scene and the T-Rex scene in the rain, also very scary.
Yeah, I should have had it on my list. I understand it not being on this list.
Also,
doing his best to derail this whole thing, by the way.
If we're going to count Jurassic Park,
then
we would count Aliens, because the last half an hour of Aliens is pretty much a 30-minute Jurassic Park scene, a 30-minute kitchen scene.
A slippery slope.
I don't include
It's a slippery slope, guys. There's lubricant on the slide.
Coming in at number 4 is Scream. Honestly, this could be higher.
Go ahead, Rich.
This movie could be higher. It's the greatest movie of all time. I actually, believe it or not, I ranked this second. I wrestled with making this first. I wrestled with it. I love it. I love every single thing about it. I think it is. And again, we talked about like in 04, 05, how they had a bit of a rut in movies. When this came out in 96, there was even more of a rut for horror movies. And they finally did what I think most of us would have done if we were in that position, is how come all of the characters in our horror movie don't know that horror movies exist? Nobody's ever talked about it. It's so simple. But of course, like Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Nightmare, until you got to like H2O, which was post Scream, they were all living in like this like horror movie universe, and they wouldn't actually talk like normal high school kids would talk and be like, yeah, I watched this movie and I'm a fan of this movie, so if something happens to me, I'm going to do things differently. And I just love it as like a horror movie fan, watching a movie with other horror movie fans in it, realizing a horror movie themselves. It's like perfect. I can't get enough of Scream.
Yeah,
so
I think it unlocked something else like in the playground to play with, right?
Yes.
Since this movie came out, most movies have included that tidbit in there.
So,
and teenagers aren't as stupid.
Three standouts here where Sydney, and I'm not sure why. So Jamie Lee Curtis kicks ass in Halloween, right?
Yep.
And pretty much after that, for the next 20 years, every woman in every horror film is just there to be killed.
Except for Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm
Nancy,
Street.
Nancy survived. Yeah.
But Sydney in this movie, she holds her own the entire movie.
Mhm.
And then after that, Randy Meeks is a great horror character, knows all the rules, points everything out. And then Matthew Lillard's Stu, I don't think any actor has had more fun playing a killer in any of these movies.
No,
And that's what so to bring up your point, Gula, one of the things that I found, I did rewatch Scream recently, and I'm a little harsh on Scream, but I think one of the best parts about it, like you said, I think I remembered listening to, was it Jamie Kennedy?
Yes.
Characters playing Randy Meeks, explaining the rules to people. And that was the first time that I had like really put it together that there was a formula.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in my head, in my, I don't know, 14, 15-year-old head, it was brilliant. Like thinking like, you can't have, because Cabin in the Woods does kind of the same thing. Like you
100%.
can't have sex.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be the first person to do the X, Y, and Z, or you're going to die, you know? So it was, like you said, it was, I forget who said it, but it was a great new thing to play with.
Yeah.
And to have these things in a universe where they exist. And someone pointed out that Clerks exists in this universe.
Yeah, so Keefe, do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to save that for a second pod?
No, let's save it for another pod. We're running late.
just
Let's keep it on
real
screen.
quick,
We can talk about
let
the
me-
Miramax universe later.
Let me make this real quick. Two quick points on this. One, Wes Craven poking fun at his own franchise with the whole Nightmare on Elm Street. The first one's good. The rest of them sucked. And two, there's another, I got a conspiracy on this movie. I don't know if you guys have heard. Coming out recently. Rewatch it thinking there's a third killer. The third killer being Tatum. Watch the movie again. Watch the scene where she dies. She's never scared until the very last part. So does she think she knows that, oh, that's Stu?
No.
Or that's Billy?
No, that's her character. She's not scared. That's not her character.
Just
She's
watch
not-
it again. Think
she's
about
not
the
in on it.
alibis. Think
She's not
about
in
where
on it.
Okay, that's
I
what
watch it
closed-minded.
recently. I watch it every day.
I watch it every day.
Watch it
Dating
tomorrow.
Marilyn
He wakes up
Manson.
to
She's
It's
not
not.
scared of nothing.
It's not in there.
Watch it tomorrow and have an open
Also,
mind.
a great part of it too was Drew Barrymore was in all the previews and she was on the poster and she was like the biggest star back in 1996.
Great point.
And they kill her 5 minutes in. So to me,
Greatest okey doke in all of movie history.
I think it's the best horror movie beginning, and I also think it's up there for endings. Like the
It is a great
ending is
ending.
great. The whole like chaos in the kitchen with Billy and Stu explaining what's going on.
My
Then
mom's
fucking-
gonna be so pissed.
like
get so much fun, man. It's get woozy.
but that scene of them stabbing each other is like next level because
It
like
is.
that's not what killers like. Normally,
Greatest delivered line of all time: "Live her alone."
live her alone.
I will
Leave
tell you
her
this.
alone.
I fucking hate David Arquette.
Oh.
That's
fair.
All right.
That's fair.
He's
I don't
good
think
in
anyone's
these.
going to
He's
argue
great.
with that one.
He's great in the Scream movies, former world
I've had
champion.
enough of these eight-legged freaks.
I'm pretty sure he auditioned for the role of Billy as well, which would have been even worse.
Yes, it would have been even worse.
Thank
Speaking
God
of
he
Billy, Skeet Ulrich, great.
Guy is handsome as shit, isn't he?
Really
And there's
is.
going to be a
And a real
Scream
Billy
5,
Zane way.
which we cannot wait for. All right, coming in at number 3 on our list, that would be The Exorcist, another movie which the generation older than us would
Yes.
say this is the scariest movie. of all time.
This is the scariest movie I've ever
heard
seen.
This
So
is
many
number one.
stories of people at the theaters just vomiting
throwing up.
while watching this movie, which is insane.
So again, Keefe and Davey might remember this a little more than and Mac and Goo. They've re-released this, I want to say in 99, 98, like in theaters, like
Yep.
the original movie. So that I went to the theaters with the friend's parents who sat like away from us, which was I think worse because I probably could have used the help of an adult near me because this
Sure.
movie scared the crap out of me. You know why? What do we
Was the
what do
mom
we-
hot?
the mom, my friend's mom?
Yeah.
Hot enough. So the scariest thing about this, and again, a little kid, a little girl, and she's possessed. I don't know why it freaks me the hell out. She pees in the beginning of the movie, sets a real odd tone for the rest of the movie, and the Catholic stuff, priests getting murdered. This thing is a roller coaster of a ride. I had it ranked number 1. I think it's the scariest movie of all time.
Yeah.
I might
and-
have had it a little low, to be honest, now that I'm looking at it. It's other so Blair Witch and Friday the 13th were the first two that like scared the shit out of me. This is the first one that gave me a nightmare that I actually thought about after I watched it.
And it was the face. It wasn't
the
even so
face-
much. It was the
Her,
face.
her coming down the stairs still scares
Yeah,
the shit out of me.
crab
That's
walking.
fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we have a movie that's a little bit higher up here. You guys can probably tell what it is, but the score in that movie we love, which kind of rips off the score in this movie,
100%.
which you would probably say that the score in this movie is the best at setting that just very eerie feeling to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear that song, can you call a score a song? Actually, David, you're a music man.
I mean, a score is like, I mean, it's there's pieces of music.
When you hear that music,
is it titular bells? What is it called?
You start to get the goosebumps.
Yeah, and it's there's something not right about it.
Similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing's pretty spooky. And the thing too with Regan there, played by what the fuck's
Linda
her name?
Blair.
Linda Blair. Apparently she got nominated for an Oscar, but she didn't win, and she was getting like a ton of buzz, and she was gonna win, is what they say. And then it was like reported that, well, like actually all of those crazy scenes, like some of them had like a double, and like some of the stuff she didn't do. And then so like the people voting were like, oh well, if she wasn't really in all those parts, then like forget it.
Which
so
is
she
dumb.
didn't win.
But I would say to hammer this home, in my mind, while this is number 3 on the actual top 50, this is the scariest movie on the list.
Yeah,
to me.
Agreed.
I
agree.
have I think 2 is scarier personally.
Oh, I
Pea
think you might be
soup
right.
and oatmeal. Pea soup and oatmeal.
I've been to those stairs too. Those are real. Those like crazy stairs are at Georgetown.
DC, right?
They're at Georgetown. They're nuts. Let's go to Tubular Bells. Thank you very much. I said titular bells. It doesn't make sense. Tubular Bells, the name of the song. Number 2,
they're
The
title
Shining.
of the movie, so they are titular bells as well.
Good point. Number 2 is The Shining, which nobody had it 1. Mac had it 2. I think I had it 4. Rossi had it 3. Goo had it high. Davey actually had it the lowest on here, but this one is...
well, Davey liked the book better.
No, that's not it. That's not it.
and the made-for-TV movie better.
No, so
Steven Weber from Wings.
No, what kind of did it in for me is if you have you seen the documentary Room 237?
Yes.
When they did so that kind of wrecked it for me because of all the things that they claim Kubrick was trying to do while filming the movie, it kind of takes away from it a little bit. Like he was trying to tell people that he faked the moon landing, which Rich, I know you are a fan of.
He did. He was tipping them off. That's why fucking the little guy was wearing the Apollo 11 sweater.
And then he stands up.
Yeah, and there's this whole thing with like the impossible room, the impossible window. So it's like,
but this movie is ripe for every single kind of conspiracy theory. Every single thing could mean something else. But it's also so scary at the surface. First of all, Shelley Duvall is a terrifying person to look at.
Oh my
God.
Nicholson
we said that about Sissy Spacek. Doubled down on Shelley Duvall.
So a couple of weeks ago, I don't know why, but
rankings.
someone asked us to do a Mount Rushmore of wrongs that people had done to Shelley Duvall, and Mac made the point that she deserved all of them.
Oh, come on. She might be nice. I don't know.
I can't even look at her. She's scary to look at.
The girl in the bathtub. The girl in the bathtub is scary.
She's not great in Popeye. She's in Popeye.
The twins are horrifying.
Yep.
The fucking bartender at the bar is scary. Just his voice is scary. And it's one where I'm still confused by the whole thing. I don't really get it. Like
it's a thinker.
It is
to think.
There's like
Jack
9 different scenes you could say is the scariest scene in the movie, and then like the slow descendants into insanity in itself is scary. And I said this. We talked about this a few weeks ago. I think just the idea, remove the ghosts. The idea of staying in a hotel that large with just your wife or your son or whatever, that's scary. I don't want to do that.
No, that's awful.
Especially when the kid can walk around. Where's that kid going? Yeah. I don't know.
Everyone needs to also keep in mind right now that Mac hates Jack Nicholson.
I fucking hate Jack Nicholson, and I still have this number 2.
Save it. That seems like a whole nother pod as well.
You sound like Stephen King.
Riding your big wheel around a hotel when you're that age, though, looks pretty sweet.
That'd be legit.
Yeah, until you see one shadow, and then you're fucking never riding the thing again.
Dude, you're riding a bike, man. You're riding
corners.
a bike, and then you take a turn, and there's a dude getting blown, and he's wearing a freaking bear mask. Like, how cool is that?
What was up with that? What's that?
What is up with that? What? Seriously?
That was never explained.
Never.
And then,
I brought it up again.
and then just the little addition of the maze at the end was like a nice little wrinkle. That's terrifying.
Yeah. You
being
think
lost in the maze, being chased by an axe murderer? No thanks.
Do you think the guy in the bear suit guy, you think they were a couple, or do you think that was a paid arrangement? What was happening there?
I think they met each other down at the bar. I think it was down at the bar, chilling out.
You think it was guys being dudes, Davey?
Yeah. Guys being dudes. It's fine.
Dude's weekend. Dude's weekend. Come on.
Yeah, dude's night out.
Dude, I got a
Sorry.
room. Come on, room 237.
man.
Come on up
Yeah.
here.
Very quickly, would you say, I know Silence of the Lamb could be it for some. Do you think this is the best movie on the list? Because I do. I think it's the best actual movie that has been on this time.
So
No.
this might be the best attention to detail
Okay.
in writing the movie. Like I would say that Jaws might be the best movie on the list.
No.
Fair.
Psycho,
I'm gonna
maybe?
go. I'm gonna go with best movie on the list. Either Silence of the Lambs or
Yeah, or this for me probably.
Get Out.
Yeah,
Watch
Get Out's
Party.
pretty fucking good too.
I think yes.
Psycho might be.
Shaun of the
Psycho's
Dead's
good.
a real hoot.
Okay, we're getting
What about
crazy.
7?
7.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah.
I
Fucking
had the
love 7.
Mummy on my list. That might be it.
Number
You guys-
one.
You guys were down on Devil's Rejects.
We were certainly were.
All right, number 1, last but not least, that would be Halloween. No surprise, Halloween. It was my number 1. It was Mac's number 1. It was Goo's number 1. It was Davey's number 5, and it was Rossi's number 6.
No brainer.
So this might not be the first slasher movie, but I think this is the first one that perfected it. And I think from start to finish, it's only 90 minutes long, which is great. You can watch it on 1.5, knock it out in an hour. And they build the suspense perfectly up until that like 40-minute mark where you actually get to Halloween night.
53 minutes is the first murder in this film, and the first 52 minutes do an unbelievable.
6 minutes is the first murder. in
First
this
one
film,
you see.
fucking idiot.
They do such a good job just building that to that night the whole time.
Yeah, I think you could balance that though. I think there's a lot of just long shots to stretch. I think this is, and listen, I don't
Long
care.
shots build suspense.
They do, but
when Davey was talking about daydreaming in the class for Friday the 13th, I always think of the scene here when she's kind of looking and she looks out the window and he's fucking standing there across the street.
that's a good one.
I think of him standing by the sheets as just
that
a
too.
fucking creepy as shit. And so Keefe was on the Mac and Goo program at the beginning of this month. And one of my favorite shots from this movie is when she looks out the window at night and you can, or actually, no, sorry, Tommy looks out the window and you see Michael carrying Annie into the house. And it is just so creepy because all you can see is this very blurry white blob or shape as he is in this movie. And it's so simple. There's no stupid backstory. He's just the boogeyman. This movie is shot so well. Mac brought up the Undertaker popping up over the shoulder.
Yes.
Like everything is just done so pinpoint and well in this movie.
And I agree with you guys that like every good thing we've talked about horror movies is from Halloween. Like I think this isn't my favorite. That's why I didn't have it at number 1 like you guys did. But this to me is the horror movie.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense. Like there are movies that I enjoy more, but this is the gold standard.
I honestly have a blast watching it every time.
Yeah.
That's great. I remember because I heard so much about it because when I was little, like I know you guys were all watching horror movies. I was scared to shit of horror movies when I was like little. So I didn't get into this more till like high school age. And I just remember hearing so much about Michael Myers and just assuming that it was like, all right, this is gonna be like a slasher, but it's like a legit good movie too. Like it's so well told about like the Donald Pleasance character or Dr. Loomis. Plaisance is what I've heard too, but like his relationship with Michael's relationship with the town and the whole thing. So yeah, on the surface of it it's a psycho killing babysitters, but there's more to it. And you end up liking the characters. You're rooting for the characters. He's going there and he's stalking them. It's a good mask. It's a good, like everything about it. Obviously the soundtrack or the score, I mean, is spot on. And oh, by the way, they stumbled into the greatest title in the history of horror movies. We talked about some of the other ones are good. There's some really good names on this list, but they were originally going to call it the Babysitter Murders. And then you're like, hey, how about we call it Halloween? Because they haven't fucking named a movie Halloween yet. And they're like, oh yeah, that's
Incredible.
better. Let's do that.
And talk about a song that goes along well with the movie too. And I believe it was written by
John Carpenter.
It was written by John Carpenter.
Yeah. He nailed it.
And this movie, I think you guys talking about horror and all that. Like, obviously, Halloween, it's this time of season. Like, you're going to watch it this time. You can watch it anytime. But, like, some of these movies, I think that people, like, Seven, you could watch it in July and it's no big difference, right? Friday the 13th feels a little bit different during this time. This is the gold standard because not only the name of it takes place on Halloween. And you remember as a kid, like, also, there's not a lot of trick-or-treaters going on during this movie. It's another.
So they're actually out around, like, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They're out
They go
every day.
early.
Yeah.
They go early because they come back from it.
Because Michael Myers is out. They knew.
and then they're watching movies and shit. So,
they're watching The Thing. They're watching the.
They were watching The
1950s
Thing, the original thing. Before this is 4 years before Carpenter got a chance to remake it when he made it better. That's going to do it. I was going to do honorable mentions, but we've already gone long enough. It's already been 2 hours, so we're going to pull the plug on this right now. That is our top 50 horror movies. Thanks for following on Twitter at Dork Podcast, all Dorktober long. Before we get out of here, fellas, Ross, let's start with you. Where can the people find you and your podcast?
They can find the podcast Pop Culture Pile Driver. It is 3 words. Get addicted to the content. Search for it on any podcast. Wherever you're listening to this, we're on there as well. 5-star review on iTunes would help us a lot. You can find us at Pop Culture PD. I'm at Jason D. Rossi.
Mac and Goo?
You can find us on Twitter and on Instagram at Mac and Goo. Goo's always doing something. You can find us at Mac and Goo Podcast on every other platform. We are Mac & Goo. That's Mac Shift Step and Goo. That includes Facebook, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and of course iTunes.
All right, and for us, of course, hashtag Dork on iTunes. You can at Dork Podcast, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube.com/Dork Podcast, all that stuff. Follow Davey on Twitch. He'll get on there at some point. Twitch.tv/RVonD. Yes,
may I? So starting next week, by the way, a week from today is the start of November.
There we go.
So I am actually this is breaking news. We don't have to do the sounder right now.
I got it, Davey. Don't worry.
About 1,000 plastic meatballs.
Okay. We are actually starting the stream's coming back November 1st.
And now, a hashtag Dork breaking news flash.
Is that me?
I got another one. This one's better.
Now, a hashtag Dork news flash.
Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
Right away for the sounder to end.
It does.
Is this the one that's like super long?
It's a bed.
It like 45 seconds.
You want to talk over the bed?
Talk over the bed. It gives you more pizzazz.
I gotta go to bed. Let's do this.
All right, let's talk over charity, boys. Okay, so the stream is actually coming back November 1st. Again, I will be streaming the entire month of November. For November, any subs, any bits, any donations, anything like that will all be being donated to the Movember charity. So please look out for links for that. It's really important to me. It's really important I've made it part of my life, and I know a bunch of these guys have too. So please be on the lookout for that. I'll be sharing links for it through Twitter at RVonD all month long. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Ryan, last thing. What do they say about wombats?
Square buttholes, baby.